Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a special WandaVision Season 1, Episode 7, open spoiler discussion. We are going to talk about that episode of WandaVision that, for me, happened last night. For some of you guys, is what happened today. We're going to talk about Episode 7 in all of its glorious, spoilery wonder. Now, in case you guys couldn't tell from the title of this video, this is a spoiler discussion. That means if you have not seen WandaVision Season 1, Episode 7, you may want to take a backseat. You might want to just click favorite on this video, come back and see it later. But just so you know, we are going to be talking about it in an open and full spoiler discussion format. Also, I want to let you guys know that this is a little bit different than the regular John Campea Show. You see, when you want to send in a question for the John Campea Show, you use the tip link that's down in the description of this video. But for these spoiler discussions and things like that, you use the super chat feature that's right here in the live chat on YouTube. So if you guys want to send in a question or thing for that, send that in there. And guys, we got a long one to go. We're going to go for a few hours here. We're going to talk about WandaVision. Anne is still working, obviously. She will be joining us at some point in a couple of hours. She'll be coming in to join us. But we got a lot of things to talk about. Now, we're going to spend almost all of our time today taking your comments, questions, theories, observations, all that kind of stuff about the episode. But I want to share a couple of my thoughts. My first thought about is this. I thought the episode was fantastic. I thought the episode was absolutely fantastic. I adored it. And like I say after every episode, what makes this show great is each episode gives us new questions. It gives us some answers. It confirms some of our theories, and it completely blows apart some of our theories. And a good show like this will do all of those things. And I feel like this episode did all that. A couple of things for me that seem to get confirmed even more about theories of mine: that Quicksilver is not the Fox Universe Quicksilver, that Vision is not the actual real Vision that we know, that this would be the last sitcom episode. However, there are some theories of mine that got blown right out of the water. The most obvious one, of course, is that Agnes is indeed Agatha Harkness. Now, I've been saying for weeks, guys, there's too much evidence. There's too much evidence. Her name, Agnes, kind of spells out Agatha Harkness. The brooch that she wears, the fact that she's wearing a witch outfit. There's too much evidence. Clearly, I've said for 3 weeks, almost 4, clearly, that's a misdirect. There's just too much evidence there that she's Agatha Harkness. You're not crazy for thinking she's Agatha. There's a lot of evidence there. I just felt like there was too much evidence, and I thought it was a misdirect. But nope, she is indeed Agatha Harkness. And you know when I knew? Here's when I knew. The moment she walked in to the house, into Wanda's house, and offered to take the kids. The moment she walked in to take the kids, I turned to Anne and like, oh shit, she is Agatha Harkness. I mean, she's trying to separate Wanda from the thing. She's not just some victim here. Yeah, everybody else was right. She's Agatha Harkness. And there you go. So there went that theory. The other theory, the real prominent theory of mine too, that I really didn't think they were going to do was Monica Rambeau, who becomes Photon, Spectrum, Captain Marvel, 1,000 other different names in the comics. I really thought they were going to wait until Captain Marvel 2 to give her powers. But clearly, and everybody knows in these comic book movies, glowing eyes means you have power. All right? You want to show the audience that somebody has power? Make their eyes glow. How does their power make their eyes glow? I don't know, but that's just the universal language of communicating to the audience that somebody has superpowers. Their eyes glow. So anyway, so they did that. I didn't think that they were going to say Monica Rambeau had her powers yet. I said 1,000 times, I think they're going to wait till Captain Marvel 2, and here they are. So I had some big theories of mine confirmed. I had some big theories of mine, some really big ones blown to pieces. They answered some questions. They raised some new questions. I thought it was a great episode. The only thing that concerns me a little bit, this is the one part that concerns me a bit, and we still have 2 episodes to go, so I'm not really sure, is that I'm a little bit nervous now that they may end this series, they may end WandaVision with a boring, stereotypical, run-of-the-mill, cookie-cutter, superhero genre ending. The heroes are heroic and the good guys win. Because I've been so excited about the notion that this thing's going to end badly. I mean, I've said that 1,000 times, right? I said, this is going to end badly, man. This is going to be Shakespearean. This is going to be, that's the phrase I used like 100. This is going to be Shakespearean in its tragedy. This is not going to end well. And it still may not. I'm not saying that they won't. They still may not end well. But there were parts of the show that made me start thinking, oh man, are they going to take this incredibly unique and different and original and fresh kind of show and give it the stereotypical cookie cutter run-of-the-mill comic book ending? Are they going to do that? And maybe they won't. Maybe they don't. I don't know if they will or if they won't, but we will see. We will see. But a couple things. We never got to meet the engineer. I don't think that woman that they met was the engineer they were referring to. I think we still are going to meet the engineer. I think just you guys who are in the live chat right now, just a quick yes or no. Do you think we are still going to meet the engineer? Or do you think that was it last night? Do you think last night that was it? It was a total dud? Or do you think we are still going to meet the engineer? Woo! I'm seeing a lot of no's. Well, I'm seeing a bunch of yeses too. Okay. It looks a little balanced, I guess. But yeah, I think we're still going to meet because the actress who plays Monica said, I can't wait for the audience to meet who's playing the engineer. Like, okay. So I mean, I don't know. But here's one of the reasons why I think we're still going to meet the engineer. Here's why I think we're still going to meet the engineer. Whoever it is. Jimmy is still outside of the hex. Jimmy's still out there. There's a reason they left Jimmy out, right? Instead of having him go inside with Monica and with Darcy and with everybody else, they left Jimmy outside of the hex for a reason. I think he's going to meet the engineer. Now, I don't know that. I clearly, no, that's just me guessing, but it's just because of that one interview that the actress gave where she clearly said, I can't wait for people to meet who the engineer is. Like, okay, all right. Well, clearly that wasn't it last night, or maybe it was. I don't know. We'll have to see. But it does raise a point that we talked about a few weeks ago. There is a habit that we, and I include myself in this, obviously, that we as fans have of doing. We really overhype a lot of things and we get invested into our own theories. And then if our theories don't work out, then we walk away dissatisfied from the movie or from the show, right? Now, let's be fair to WandaVision. What did WandaVision say was going to happen with the engineer? Nothing. There was 2 lines. One line said, okay, we need to make this device. All right, I think I know somebody who can do that. And then in another episode, all right, we're going to go meet my guy and we'll get our way in. But what happens is people like me, people like you, we grab onto that and we say, okay, well, this is going to be absolutely majorly significant. When really WandaVision, I mean, to me, when you reference it twice, it kind of looks like that's what you're doing. But to be fair to them, they had 2 simple lines and people like me interpreted those simple lines as being big and significant. And we were all kind of waiting for this big world explosion to happen last night. And it didn't happen. And what happens is some people, when they don't get what they expect they're going to get, they get disappointed. Now, I was expecting some big revelation of who this engineer was last night, but it didn't happen. But you know what? Didn't hurt my enjoyment of the show. I still like the show. And I still think there's a chance we have yet to meet the engineer. I mean, I don't know. Let's be very clear. I don't know. But I still think there's a chance at that. One other interesting thing, too. I thought this was neat. So after the episode last night, I saw a bunch of people saying that they thought that book that was down in Agatha's basement, I read a lot of people saying that they felt or they thought that book, this is a disaster right here. Let me get this going. They felt that book was the Darkhold, what's known as the Darkhold. That's what they thought. Some people thought that book was the Darkhold, or Darkhold, whatever they call it, and that the Darkhold was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Now, I went back and looked. This is the book from last night's show. That's the book from last night's show. If you jump online and search for an image of the Darkhold from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's the same style of book, but you will see it as clearly a different book. But I thought that was interesting too. But just to put that thing away, you got to put that away. It is not the Darkhold. So it's a different book altogether. I mean, it's kind of the same look. It's like that old, it's got this design and whatever, but it's a totally different design. So that was it. But my first thought when I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, I think that's the Darkhold. And I thought for sure Kevin Feige would never bring anything from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in. Now, granted, the Darkhold was in the comics earlier than that, but still. So I think that was interesting. That was interesting. So yeah, I mean, so we had the Monica thing. What I thought was one of the more interesting things was that Vision, because you guys know my theory all along, it's been Vision is not actually the real Vision. There's a Ben Reilly Spider-Man situation going on there. And I thought it was really, and I thought that because that's why he has no memories prior to Westview. That's why he can't exist outside of the Hex. Like all that kind of stuff. I kind of felt that because of that, he's not really Vision. And then last night, he's doing the interview, right? He's doing his interview, and he's talking about, wow, I guess I didn't understand that that Wanda was going through so much, and I guess I did too, but it feels like that's somebody else. Did you catch that line when he said that? Kind of feels like that was somebody else. Because again, I think that just reinforces, again, it's not 100% confirmation, it's not, but I think that does reinforce the theory that this is not actually Vision. And then, of course, we have Wanda calling Pietro a lie. We have Vision calling Pietro an imposter or whatever else, a fake, a fraud, whatever it is. That goes to my theory that this isn't actually Quicksilver. But here's the thing. So I've been saying this whole time, this isn't Quicksilver from the Fox universe, right? You know I've been saying that the whole time. This is not Quicksilver from the Fox universe. And then last night, of course, we get Wanda confirming that that's not actually Pietro, and we have Vision confirming that guy's an imposter. But here's the thing. This is interesting. Do you guys remember after episode 3, I and a lot of other people, we were convinced that Wanda is doing everything. Like all of this is being done by Wanda. And then at the end of episode 4, after Wanda throws Monica out of the Hex and Monica's knocked out on the grass and she wakes up, and what was the first thing that Monica said? Monica said, "It's all Wanda," right? Now, up until that point, my theory was this is all Wanda. So you'd think when Monica wakes up and says, "It's all Wanda," you would think that would confirm my theory. But what did I say at the time? Monica wakes up and says, "It's all Wanda." And I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you saying that now? Like, it was like the show confirming that my theory was right convinced me that my theory was actually wrong. Because when she woke up and said, "It's all Wanda," I went, yes, wait a minute, wait. Why would, if it is all Wanda, why would you be saying that to the audience now? Okay, now I think my theory's wrong. A little bit of that happened with Quicksilver yesterday. And I'm not saying I've completely changed sides, but you guys know this whole time I've been saying this Quicksilver is not the Fox X-Men Quicksilver. It is not the Evan Peters Quicksilver, blah, blah, blah. But then last night episode happens, and it's almost like they go out of their way to convince us that it's not actually the real Quicksilver. We have Vision saying that imposter, that fake Quicksilver. We have Wanda yelling at Monica Rambeau that you put that lie of a Pietro in here, right? But by them confirming that my theory was right, it has made me think that maybe my theory was wrong. Them saying my theory was right is making me think my theory is actually wrong. I'm thinking there is a possibility here that their confirmation that my theory was right might actually be the first sign that the theory is actually wrong. And I'm thinking their confirmation of my theory might actually be a misdirect. I don't know, which is funny because I started getting all these tweets from people last night saying, oh, John, looks like you were right. It's not that Quicksilver. But I'm sitting there like, but was I right? Because now I'm not so sure. Now I'm not so sure. I don't know. Now I'm not. Look, if I had to put $2 on it, $2, not $100, not $10. If I had to put $2 on it, I would still say it's probably not Quicksilver. I at least not the Quicksilver from the Fox universe. If I had to bet $2, I'm still sticking by that. But I'm not as sure as I was before because the show seemed to confirm that my theory was right. And whenever this show seems to confirm that your theory is right, that's when they slap you across the face. It's when it seems like they're confirming your theory is right that you then realize that you were wrong. So now I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I do know this. There is still a lot to come in episodes 8 and 9. And I'm still feeling, I don't know this. I never heard this from anybody. I'm still feeling like episode 8 is going to be a flashback episode. I still have a feeling that's going to be a flashback episode. And by the way, did you notice too that in the Agnes thing, that Agnes first appears after Westview was already set up? Like that thing never implied. Tell me what you guys think about this. That whole Agnes sequence, it never implied that Agnes actually started this whole thing. To me, it looked like, okay, Wanda set up this Westview living in sitcom thing, and then Agnes inserted herself into it. She showed up at her door and came knocking on her door. At least that's kind of what it looked like to me. So I'm not really sure. Now, some people are saying, John, there was a post-credit scene. Yes, there was. I don't know that the post-credit scene really tells us anything. Like Snooper's going to snoop. That was a funny line. Some people are thinking that Evan Peters is Agatha Harkness's son, and he's just caught her. Some people are thinking he's an average guy who's like, hey, I was under the spell. Some people are thinking, no, he's actually the Fox Quicksilver's like, how did I get here? Could be any of those. To me, it wasn't really clear. But at least for the first time, because I don't know if you guys have done this. But every frickin' episode, I sit there and play through all the credits just in case there's a post-credit scene. And every single episode, been disappointed. Until last night. Last night was the first time we get rewarded for sitting there like idiots and waiting through even though there's never been a post-credit scene yet, we sat there like idiots again last night and we played it through. So, okay, there's not going to be one because there's never, oh my God, there's a post-credit scene. And that was pretty fun to find out there too. So I just so many things. I love the Darcy and Vision interactions. I thought the whole crossing thing was funny. I thought that was really good. I loved Agatha's joke. Like it was very, very Modern Family. They go, come on, kids, I don't bite. And then it cuts away to the interview. I once bit a kid, or I bit a kid once. That was hilarious. I thought that was great. So yeah, there was a lot of really good stuff. So anyway, that's where I'm at on that. So now, guys, what we're going to do is we are going to spend the balance of our time. I'm going to hear from you guys, see what you have to say. And by the way, where are the kids? Where are the kids? I don't think the kids are dead yet. Like, I still don't think the kids get out of this show, but I'm seeing a lot of people saying that they think she killed the kids. I don't think she killed the kids yet. I think the kids, maybe they're in the TV, that jumpy jump, that show that was on the television. I think maybe she might have planted them in there. Maybe they're the rabbit. I don't know. Maybe Doctor Strange is the rabbit. We'll have to say, but I don't think her kids are dead yet. They might be. They might be, kid. They might be. We'll find out. All right. Let's move on here and let's start taking your thoughts on the episode last night. We're going to start off thing here with KM Reviews writes, Blue balls with the engineer reveal, but Photon and Harkness was cool. Did you see the mid-credit scene? I did. I think we are done with the sitcom stuff now. Yeah, remember I said that last week? I said, I think episode 7 will be the final sitcom stuff, and then we'll go more into regular narrative things. Now, I don't know that for sure. We might still get a sitcom thing next week, but I agree with you, Kim. I think we're done with the sitcom stuff. All right, Suthius writes, hey guys, I feel a great disturbance in the force as if a million voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. Great cameo, LOL. Yeah, again, right, listen, maybe a big disappointment, maybe a big disappointment. I still think we haven't quite met the engineer. I feel no certainty about that. I feel absolutely no certainty about that. It's just that it's just nagging me remembering that interview where she said that I can't wait for the audience to meet the engineer. Maybe that was a misdirect. Maybe that was a misdirect she was doing in the interview, but I still think that might be there. All right, next up. Daryl Weissy writes, all the hype for the engineer reveal was totally worth the payoff. I should have worn my white pants. Hashtag justice for Franklin. Of course, Franklin is the beekeeper guy. We still don't know what happened to the beekeeper guy, Daniel. We still don't know what happened to the beekeeper. All right, next up. Richard Ganther writes, one of two. I actually got most of my wishes. Answers about Agnes. The stork came back for a second. And I think Pietro might actually be Pietro. They showed Agnes controlling him with her purple magic. I think that implies he's not willingly working with her. And when he appeared, the breach alarm was going off. So I think he may have been pulled in and is under her spell control. Thanks, John. I mean, I'm still not there. I am still not there. But Vision confirming that he's a fake and Wanda confirming he's a fake actually makes me question if he's actually a fake or not. And now I'm not so sure. All right. KM Reviews writes, did you see the missing child on the milk when she poured it? Talk about foreshadowing. No, I didn't. But here's the thing. I asked, do you guys, was the child on the milk carton? Was it anybody we knew? Was it anybody we recognized? For you guys in the live chat, there was a kid on the milk carton, but was it anybody you recognize? Yeah, no. See, here's the thing. You got to remember, like, maybe they don't do it anymore, but putting missing kids' pictures on milk cartons was a standard thing, like up till not too awful long ago. So I don't know if that means something or if it doesn't. Some people are saying it was blurry, that maybe it was somebody, but again, missing kids' pictures on a milk carton is not an unusual thing. So I didn't really think anything of it, but maybe it is something that we'll have to keep our eyes open for. All right, Jake C. writes, so, pure coincidence that Evan Peter plays false Pietro? If so, that kind of takes away from the episode 5 reveal. Either multiverse it or don't. Hey, listen, I told you guys, don't put anything past Kevin Feige and the lengths he's willing to go to throw curveballs and misdirects at us. Don't ever, ever, ever underestimate that. And don't blame them if your theory doesn't turn out to be what you thought it was, right? Like every week, we're going to have theories that turn out to be true and theories that turn out to be false. Look at my thing with Agatha Harkness. But don't blame them that your theory isn't what they did, right? So I don't know. I just thought it was, if it does indeed end up not being Pietro, I think it's a master stroke of misdirection by Kevin Feige. I think it's great if that's the way they do it. All right, Suthia says it's been Agatha all along. Again, I don't think that thing implied that she actually created this whole thing. I think she just interjected herself into it. Then again, we don't have enough information yet. I think we'll find out more in episode 8. Jord MCHG writes, it was Agatha all along. Nah, I still think it's Nightmare. By the way, I still think it's mostly Wanda. I think this is other entities. And by the way, Agatha's basement made it clear there is somebody else. Now, I have never thought it was Mephisto or Nightmare, but that Yo Magic spot last week, remember I said this, that Yo Magic spot has made me rethink that maybe it is a Nightmare. Or maybe there's a lot of stuff down there that look like Mephistopheles and all this kind of stuff. There was a lot of stuff down there that could make you think she's working for Mephisto. But either way, I think it kind of looks like Wanda is still the one who initiated all this and is responsible for it, but they are taking advantage of the situation. Again, I don't know that for sure. Not enough information there yet, but we'll develop that as we get more information. Let's see here. Starkiller66 writes, Hey, John and Ann. Ann's not here yet, obviously. Vision and Darcy is the team up I never knew I needed. They have such great chemistry together. There's something about Paul Bettany, man. Paul Bettany's such a good performer. He just is able to make this great chemistry. And so does Kat Dennings, because I still love the Jimmy and Darcy duo, but Vision and Darcy together was also wonderful. You're right, Starkiller. I really like that. Juno Faulkner writes, Doctor Strange has to be the big cameo now. No, he doesn't. He does not have to be. Damn, Agatha is powerful as hell. Was that book in her lair the Darkhold? No, hey, I thought that too for a second. But it's not. And no, it doesn't have to be Doctor Strange that comes in at the end. But listen, I've never thought it would be Doctor Strange, but I've always said Doctor Strange is one of those options on the table. There are some theories that are far-fetched, but then there are some legitimate theories that do deserve to be on the table. Doctor Strange showing up as one. I still don't think it'll be him, but I don't know. Now we got some powerful witchcraft going on. Maybe Mordo comes hunting for Agatha Harkness. I don't know. Maybe maybe Agatha Harkness is trying to get more power to, fight off Mordo, who's looking to kill her or something. I don't know. That's one of those wild theories that is off the table, but Strange showing up is on the table. I still don't buy into it yet, but we'll see. Maybe as more information gets revealed. All right. Dan White writes, I think it's pretty clear now that Agatha is the main villain, which makes sense, to be honest, which versus which. I still don't know. I still remember after they said that it's all Wanda, and I said, well, since they're saying it's all Wanda, I no longer believe it's all Wanda. I still believed it was mostly Wanda, but there was, remember how I described this? I said, I feel like there's another presence that's kind of like the devil on the shoulder. You know, the old thing, like there's an angel on one shoulder, devil on another. The devil's trying to constantly get you to do things. I feel like there's another presence in the show that is kind of like that influence, right? But I still think Wanda's like the main culprit, but she's being influenced or whatever by this other power. And whether that is Agatha or whether Agatha is working for somebody else. Because again, this book wasn't just sitting there for the hell of it. They didn't zoom in with the camera on this book just for the hell of it. They zoomed in on that camera for a reason, right? Or they zoomed in on that book for a reason. That's not there just for nothing. So it could be a signifying that she is working for somebody, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, next up. That was Dan White. Next up is the Gixer right. She's got her powers. Oh, talking about Monica. Yep. I didn't think she'd get them till Captain Marvel 2. I really didn't think, I felt really solid about that. I thought it makes too much sense to have her get her powers in Captain Marvel 2. So that one caught me very by surprise. Like the Agatha thing, not so by surprise because there has been a lot of evidence for it. I just didn't buy into it. The Monica thing really surprised me. I would have bet $10. Maybe not 50, but I would have bet $10 that Monica wasn't going to get her powers in WandaVision, and lo and behold, she did. Solar Eclipse Productions writes, nice of WandaVision to tease us with a spinoff like that at the end. I know, right? Like maybe episode 8 is the spinoff. I know, again, I kind of feel like the whole sitcom thing is now done. I feel like they now have 2 episodes left to just wrap up the story, and I think they're just going to focus on that. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Where are we at? Kirky Novak writes, okay, so pretty much confirmed Hayward is a generic bad guy, and no, it's not confirmed. Nothing has been confirmed yet. Is a generic bad guy, and Sword plotline is just that bad. I hate the designated villain trope. Again, I don't think Hayward is a villain. I still don't think he's a villain. I think he is a dick. I think he's a big jerk. But I'm still not, even the stuff that they said last night with him wanting to work on, Vision, trying to resuscitate Vision or stuff like that. Even then, I don't think that signifies necessarily that he is automatically a bad guy. It's one of those things where I just feel like they made it too obvious, but again, it's one of those things that's on the table. Maybe it works out that way. All right. Sam Fisher writes, Agatha all along. So wait, now there's a show in a show in a show. I know, right? They're getting completely meta on this. It is a show that is within a show that is within a show, it's Inception all over again, Sam. All right, Sam also writes, figured she was Agatha, but I also thought she would have been like an old friend that Wanda went to talk to, pulling strings, not a strange pulling strings. Went to talk to pulling strings, not a strange pulling strings. Yeah, I mean, like in the comic books, like Agatha Harkness has even like been a babysitter. Like seriously, go look it up. Agatha has actually been a babysitter at times. Villain sometimes, ally enemy sometimes, ally sometimes. But yeah, I just thought they were making it too obvious with the brooch, with the witch costume, with the name. I thought they were making it too obvious. So I'm like, no. It's not that. That's a misdirect. Kevin Feige is the master of misdirects. It's a misdirect. She ain't Agatha Harkness. I know that the very fact that they're giving us so much proof that she's Agatha Harkness makes it clear she's not Agatha Harkness. Turns out there was just proof that she was Agatha Harkness because she is Agatha Harkness. So there you go. But that's why, right? Like, think about it. That's why they throw so many misdirects at you. So you don't know what is what, right? They throw Monica saying on the show, it's all Wanda. And it's a misdirect. And they do that so you question everything in the damn show. So like when it makes it like, I think, well, okay, but Agatha Harkness wearing the brooch, wearing a witch costume, come on, that's a little too on the nose. But because they throw so many misdirects on you, totally fooled me. I know it didn't fool a lot of you, but I admit it, man, that fooled me. I thought that was a big, intricate misdirect, and it fooled me. It did. It fooled me. But that just goes to speak, again, to the brilliance of the way they use misdirects. It's very, very well done. All right, let's see. Jord MCHG writes, Wanda made the hex, but Agatha controls everything. Oh, I think it's clear Agatha doesn't control everything. She doesn't, that's clear. I mean, right? Like even just from Wanda, like expanding the hex and doing a lot of other stuff. Clearly Agatha doesn't control everything. But yeah, it does look like Wanda created this whole scenario to start with, and Agatha has inserted herself into it with whoever she works for as well. Benjamin GL writes, okay, now Feige is just screwing with us. Dude, I've been telling you that. Feige will screw with us. Absolutely he will. It keeps us on our toes. If he didn't, then everything becomes predictable, right? Everything becomes predictable. Now, we're never sure. And so that, like, even me, like with Vision, like I'm thinking they keep making it obvious every single episode. That's not the real Vision. But now I don't know. He screws with us so much. Now I simply don't know. It's great. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Sam Fisher writes, John, I think you were wrong about Monica getting her powers of Captain Marvel too. Well, clearly, I obviously was. I would love to see more of her Spectrum vision, pun not intended. It is going to be interesting to see how far they go with her powers. Like, is she going to be involved in like a final showdown with everybody, or are they just introducing her with her powers now so they can use her later on? I don't know. We'll find out. Reminds me of the Daredevil movie's visualization of Daredevil's sonar vision, which I thought was well done and maybe the best part of the movie. Well, I don't think that was the best part of the Daredevil movie. I really, really like the Daredevil movie. Unapologetically, I like Ben Affleck's Daredevil movie. There you go. But yeah, that part in the show was actually pretty cool. I like that. Evelyn writes, all the Vision and Darcy parts were so funny. The bit where they can't move forward and the road keeps getting blocked. I know. I thought that was great. Like, really? The construction crew. And then as soon as they start having the kids march along, I'm not going to lie. I laughed pretty hard at that, Evelyn. I really did. Sam also writes, obviously the builder of the rover wasn't the Luke cameo. As I know, no one in the comics is named Goodner. I think everyone just assumed they were one and the same because they made such a big deal out of the engineer in episodes 5 through 6. And by the way, I'm still not convinced she was the engineer. Notice I'm saying I'm not convinced. I'm not saying I'm absolutely sure she wasn't the engineer, so I'm not making any guesses one way or the other. I'm just saying right now I'm not convinced that she was the engineer. I'm not convinced that she wasn't, but I'm not convinced that she was, but we'll see. All right, Dwayne Fernandez writes, the ad refers to Nexus. Yes, the Nexus of all realities. We got to talk about that. The ad refers to Nexus. So in the comics, there's something called the Nexus of all realities, which provides a pathway to different realities. Sorry, hey guys, listen, if you want to put in a part 1 or a part 2, you got to follow it up quickly, so I don't have to go through. But yes, right? Now, just because they put it in the commercial, that could just be an Easter egg or something like that. But, I mean, the Nexus of all realities, which is basically a portal and gateway between every possible conceivable reality, including realities within realities. And because they talk about that in the commercial, that opens up an interesting door. And it basically means all bets are off moving forward. I mean, literally anything. It could mean everything is possible. You know, we always say anything's possible. Well, if the Nexus of all realities is actually at play here, it literally means anything is possible. As Catherine Hahn said in Ron Burgundy, anything. Anything is possible. It's kind of crazy. When they said Nexus in that commercial, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Here we go. Couldn't believe it. All right. Let's see. Sam Fisher writes, or Grant Williams writes, Wanda is a Nexus being in the comics. Yeah, but that's they clearly don't have that in the MCU, but they're obviously bringing in the Nexus in some way. Let's see here. Also, let me just look up something here quick. If I can't find this quick, I will move on very quickly. Okay. Sorry. No, I can't find it quickly, so I'm going to move on about that. Next up, we've got Sam Fisher writes, I think after episode 9 airs, but before the assembled behind the scenes, I'm going to binge all the show, watch it as a movie or something like that. Oh, I'll probably do it too. You know what I will probably do? Dennis Zen is the one who got me onto doing this. I never watched Game of Thrones season 1 until the season 1 finale. And my buddy Dennis Zen had a watch party at his place in Hollywood to watch the thing, but it was going to be an all-day thing where we were going to binge watch all of season 1 and then finish the evening watching the broadcast of the finale. And since he did that, I've done that for a couple of shows. For a couple of shows that are going into their season finale, like I watched the whole series, and then on the day of the finale coming out, I'll watch the whole series again in one binge session and end with that. I may just end up doing that for WandaVision season 1. It seems like a good idea. Okay, let's move on here. Sam Fisher writes, what was the title sequence? It felt vaguely familiar, like a song and the use of Wanda's name and a bunch of locales, but I can't seem to place it. I'll tell you what the opening credits felt like to me. The opening credits to me felt a lot like The Office. Like the show felt like Modern Family, but those opening credits really did feel like The Office, like a bunch of Matthew, Mitty, Emad, Kirky, Daniel. Yeah, I agree with all you guys. It really felt very, very much like The Office opening, even though the show relied more on Modern Family. All right, Afi writes. Oh, wait a second. Sorry. BW Rojas writes, it seems Agnes is one villain revealed. Is there a second coming? I believe there is. Plus, Doctor Strange is the likely cameo now. Maybe the Ancient One? Well, the Ancient One's gone. WandaVision is picking up big time. Again, my one big problem, if it is Doctor Strange, and it could be Doctor Strange, but my one big problem is if it's Doctor Strange, how is that a big deal? Doctor Strange is a current active, ongoing character in the MCU that is popping up in the MCU all over the place. What's the big deal if he pops up in another MCU show? Like, it's cool. It's cool if it's Doctor Strange, but is it a big deal? Is it actually an exciting thing? I mean, he's a character that is already in the MCU all over the place in the MCU. He's in the Avengers movies. He's in, obviously, Doctor Strange. We've got Doctor Strange 2 coming. I mean, he's there. Same with Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a current, ongoing, active MCU character. Is him popping up in an MCU show a big deal? No, it's not a big deal. It's kind of cool, but it's not like, wow, Spider-Man. an MCU character popped up in an MCU show. What a shock. Oh, wow, Doctor Strange. Never would have thought Doctor Strange, a current ongoing active MCU character, would pop up in an MCU show. It could be cool. It just doesn't feel like it would be special at all. It just wouldn't be special at all. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All right, next up. Athy writes, I actually did bite a kid. I loved that line. I loved that line. I laughed audibly out loud when she made that line. Let's see. Evelyn writes, I also found hilarious Vision talking to the camera in the middle of nowhere about the situation. Great comedic timing from Paul Bettany. Absolutely. And even when he went, what am I doing? And then he actually even, the little details, like he stops to take off the lapel microphone and everything too. And then he's back in the car, goes through the roof. Okay, I'll just meet you there then. I thought that was all great, Evelyn. I thought that was great. Sam Fisher writes, I really like the fact that Wanda's loss of control is now bleeding into the sitcoms. Yeah, see what I think. Tell me what you guys think. I want a yes or no, okay? Quick yes or no in the live chat. And wait till I finish before you type in yes or no. My immediate thought is that the reason things started flickering and getting a little bit out of control is because of a two-stage thing. Number one, because she expanded the size of the hex, there's now way more stuff that she's trying to control. And then you add on top of that, the fact that going back to that shark in Yo Magic, I feed on Yo Magic. So I think it is a two-part thing where because she expanded the size of the hex, compiled with the fact that somebody is feeding on her power, I think that is why all the magic was glitching. Do you guys agree with that theory, yes or no? Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of you guys saying yes. Comic, Nova, Cam, Frank, MDR. I'm seeing a couple of no's in there too, but most of you guys are saying yes as well. There's a few no's scattered, like Alton says no. Alton says no. Alton Wang is saying no, but a bunch of you guys, Bookham Dano is saying yes. A whole bunch of you guys are saying yes. So yeah, but again, I don't know that. Like maybe it's Agnes that's making her doubt herself and Agnes is doing it. I don't know. Maybe we should start calling her Agatha because that's who she is, despite the fact that I didn't think that's who she was, but whatever. We'll see. Okay, let's move on now. Yeah, that was Sam. Next up, Iconic Reactions writes, Remember we still haunt? Probably mean haven't. We still haven't seen Ralph yet. I'm not 100% convinced we are going to see Ralph. We still haven't seen Ralph yet. I think he's Mephisto and it's fitting. A powerful witch versus a powerful witch and Vision versus possible Mephisto. Also, the magic book Agatha has, what's with that? Yeah, I'm not sure. Some people are speculating that the book Agatha has is one of the books from the Sanctum, right? It's from the Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer's Library, right? Remember when Mads Mikkelsen stole one? A lot of people think that that book is from that same library. So listen, look, it is very, very difficult at this point, after seeing everything in Agatha's basement with the various statues and the book and all that kind of stuff, that Mephisto isn't involved. Like this whole time I've said, yeah, Mephisto's possible. It could be, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't think they're going to go that way. I don't see them bringing a character known as Satan in the comic book sometime. I mean, not literally Satan, but they call him Satan sometime. I don't see that, but I'm telling you, man, after that Yo Magic commercial, I started to question that between Nightmare and Mephisto. I lean more towards Nightmare, and then after seeing that in the thing, it's hard. It's hard not to do that. Who's saying this in the thing? Larry Wawa is saying, hey, maybe Ralph is the rabbit. Maybe Agatha got frustrated with her husband, turned Ralph into the rabbit. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Grant Williams writes, Nexus also has to do with the TVA, ties into Loki. I mean, that's the other thing. As soon as I saw the Nexus of all realities, you understand the Time Variance Authority. That's the TVA. We saw them in the Loki trailer. That could be another piece of connective tissue between all the Disney Plus shows. Now, look. Remember, Kevin Feige said that this story arc involves WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2. He never said Loki, but that could be, again, connective tissue for the Disney Plus shows as a whole. So that could be in there as well. All right, let's move on. Next up, we got Sam Fisher writes, episode 4 is still the best episode for me. The episode 4 was great, but that might change when I do a binge post episode 9 release. Listen, I tell you, I have loved every episode. The episodes that confirm the different theories I had, the episodes that tear apart the theories that I had, I love them all. I think they're great, and I really, really did enjoy last night's episode. All right, Matt McLean writes, so do you think Agatha has been in control of everything, or do you think Wanda set up the hex and Agatha infiltrated it? That's exactly what I think. And it looked like that whole Agatha musical montage at the end seemed to verify that. It seemed like she came flying in after it was all already set up. So my thought right now is that it is indeed still Wanda. At the core, at the heart of it all, is still Wanda, but she's been influenced and manipulated a little bit and all that kind of stuff for Agatha and whoever she's working with's own purposes. But I mean, ask me after episode 8, because that theory could change, Matt. All right, next up. Suthius writes, I personally found it funny that Darcy calls Vision Creeper. Then they get into a van, which reminds me of the Creepers. Oh, that is true, right? I love Jeepers Creepers, by the way. God, I love that. The first one, the second one, not so much. But that first Jeepers Creepers with Justin Long, it's one of my favorite horror movies. It is absolutely one of my favorite horror movies. Thanks for making that little comparison there, Suthius. I like that. Sam Fisher writes, I'm a little annoyed that Monica didn't try to find Darcy. I hate the trope of separate groups having a part of the information, but only figuring it out. Yeah, well, let's go on to part 2 for Sam. When they're coming together because the audience knows all the information because they've been following everyone. I agree, Sam. However, in this circumstance, it would make no logical sense. First of all, Jimmy and Monica don't 100% know for sure that Darcy's in there. Remember, they weren't there when Darcy got sucked into the, or enveloped into the hex. So they don't even know 100% for sure that Darcy's in there. They may assume she's in there, but they don't even know for sure that she's in there. But number 2, the number 1 priority is getting to Wanda and getting her to end this. That's the number 1 priority. So for me, I think in that circumstance, it made very logical sense that once Monica got in there, the very first place she goes is to priority number 1, get to Wanda to end this thing. And so that's why I think it kind of made sense. All right. Lucky Dragon writes, now the episode goes out of its way to paint Agatha as the villain, which would be a radical departure from the good-natured Agatha of the comics. Remember, Lucky Dragon, Agatha has been portrayed in different ways in the comics. Agatha has been portrayed in different ways. And let's not forget, like in Captain Marvel, the Skrulls are portrayed very different in Captain Marvel than they traditionally are in the comics, right? So let's not worry about that too much, or put too much weight on what was or wasn't a part of the comics there. But I see what you're saying. All right, next up, Suthius writes, where'd he go? So does that mean the kids were conjured by Agatha? Maybe. You guys know I've never really bought the idea that the kids are real, right? Like Immaculate Conception, then suddenly they're at the age they're at. I don't know. But maybe. I'm at a place right now where there have been so many misdirects and so many things verified and torn apart and verified and torn apart. I don't know which way is up anymore. I'm a little bit lost right now. But it could be that the kids were just Agatha's doing and she just stopped it. I mean, I don't know. I think they were probably in the jumpy jump video. That's right. That's my guess right now. That's my wild guess right now. All right. Timothy Platt writes, they tease the engineer like it's a big deal, only for it to be some random person. And this episode felt entirely too short and not in a good way. Every episode feels too short and not in a good way. That is my one criticism of WandaVision. But, Timothy, to be fair, let's be fair about this. Even though some stupid people, me, have been saying, well, they mentioned the engineer twice. That's gotta mean it's a big-ass deal. To be fair, all they ever did in that show was say, Okay, we need to make that. Okay, I think I know an engineer who might be able to build that for us. And okay, we got to go meet my guy. He's going to meet us in an hour. That's all they said. That's all they said. You know who made a big deal out of that? Us. We're the ones who made a big deal out of that. They really, when you sit down and look at it, they didn't make a big deal out of it. We, and I'll start with me, made a big deal out of it. We made a big deal out of it. I made a big deal out of it. I'm like, hey man, listen, I'm telling you, it's going to be somebody because they said, they brought it up twice. Why would they bring it up twice if it's not a big deal? Well, really, they didn't make a big deal out of it. We were making a big deal out of it. But again, I'm still not convinced. I am still not convinced that we haven't met that we've met the engineer yet. I'm still not convinced that we're not still going to meet the engineer. I'm not convinced the other way either, but we'll see. We'll see. But yes, the episodes are too short. And I don't mean because I want them to be longer, but for these episodes, these are episodes that should be a bit longer. There are certain things happening that need a little bit more room to breathe. There are like these, just the nature of these episodes feel like these episodes should be a bit longer. I'm not saying they all had to be an hour long. Don't get me wrong, but I still feel that. And I definitely felt that last night too. By the way, what was I saying last couple days on the show when everybody was saying, did you hear, John? It's confirmed. The last 3 episodes are all going to be an hour long each. What did I tell you guys? Don't believe that. I mean, I hope they are. I hope they are. But Marvel never said the last 3 episodes are going to be an hour long each. And then last night, what was last night? What was last night? It was like 38 minutes or something like that. Should have been a bit longer. I do think we are going to get longer episodes for episodes 8 and 9. You guys are saying 37 minutes. I was close. 37 minutes. 34 minutes if you don't count the damn credits. But I feel you, Timothy. I feel you. All right, Benjamin GL writes, tapped in like $20. Thank you, Benjamin. I finally, good pacing is back. I thought they've had good pacing the whole time. I'm not going to lie to you. I think the pacing has been, if not over hyper. I think the pacing's been over hyper, but finally good pacing is back. I think Pietro will be Mephisto, and I never thought he was going to be in this show. 3, I still think Hayward is going to be an anti-villain, good guy who does stupid stuff for good reasons. 4, Pork. Yeah, listen, I don't know what to think about Quicksilver anymore. I don't know what to think about Evan Peters. I will still stand that I do not think he is from the X-Men universe. But I never thought he was Mephisto either. And I never thought he was Agatha Harkness's son, because I didn't think that was Agatha Harkness. But after this episode, all these options are on the table. I will still go with, I do not believe he is Evan Peters from the Fox X-Men universe, but it's on the table. Him being Mephisto is also on the table. Him being Agatha Harkness's son is on the table. These things are all in play. And they've got a lot of stuff to answer in episodes 8 and 9, my friends. All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Benjamin. And I agree with you about Hayward, too, by the way. I still believe he's going to end up being a dick good guy. That's what I think at any rate. All right, Raymond writes, I have to say I was disappointed in this episode. I felt very underwhelmed with it. At least Monica got her powers. Maybe next week will be better. See, here, let me challenge you on something, Raymond. Here's the thing. I feel like people have forgotten what makes a good show. I feel like too many people are just looking for the big YouTube moment. They're just looking for some big highlights. Like, I feel like there were some people, and I know this because some people actually said this in the live chats of my show. People actually said this in the live chat of my show. So I know I'm not making this up. This is actually factually true, that there are some people that are just like, if Reed Richards isn't there, this is going to be a waste. And I feel like because there wasn't some big explosion revelation, that they aren't going to buy into it or they won't like it. And I don't understand that. This show, We got a lot of narrative progression. There were wonderful moments. The story absolutely moved forward. There's a lot of shows, sometimes you hit episodes where the story doesn't move forward. This thing had great character. The story was moving forward. There were a lot of delightful moments. There were a couple of important reveals. But yeah, there wasn't the big YouTube highlight of, whoa, Evan Peters was at the door, or whoa, Mr. Fantastic shows up. And I feel like because there are those who told me this, that they were going to feel this way, that if Reed Richards doesn't show up, then I don't care. Well, that's why it's a show. Like any 8th grader with a video camera can say, okay, now let's have Mr. Fantastic show up. Yay! And then let's have Doctor Strange show up. Yay! Not that these would be bad things, but I'm just saying these are things that any 10th grader, any kid with a video camera can come up with that idea. Oh, let's just do this big pound explosion thing. The show, I thought the episode was great. I thought the episode did everything that all the Agatha and stuff like that. I don't know. That's just me. So yeah, that's just my thought. Anyway. Next up, we've got Dwayne Fernandez writes, ad says Nexus can anchor you to reality or visit one of your own choice. Thus, I think it's fair to assume that the Nexus works similar to the comics, or at least parts of it work similar to it. Again, I'm not going to assume that just because it was in the commercial that the Nexus of all realities is actually in play here in WandaVision. But if it is, if that commercial is saying to us that the Nexus of all realities is a part of this story, then literally, Dwayne, anything is possible. Anything and everything is on the table. It's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of work with that. Let's see. Lucky Dragon writes, this is another misdirection. I believe Agatha is trying to help Wanda somehow. Her intentions are good, even if she is using questionable methods. Hey, listen. Down is up is down, left is right, dogs and cats living together. There have been so many twists and turns in this thing that I'm not going to reject that theory. I mean, if you know the history of Agatha Harkness, that's a possibility. But also if you just look at this show. Like, Agatha didn't go down into the basement and then suddenly start to torture Wanda. As a matter of fact, what did Agatha do? She cast this little spell so Wanda could see all of Agatha doing the little bits of things that she was doing behind the scenes, right? She just did a reveal for Wanda. So listen, it's probably the fact that she is villainous at this point, but it's also possible that's exactly that. It might be another misdirect. Maybe she's actually there to help her. I don't know, but she did kill the dog. She did. And I killed Sparky too. That was great. She killed the dog, man. She killed the dog. All right. Sam Fisher writes, I knew Hayward was trying to rebuild Vision. I knew it. Well, that was obvious. They were clearly researching on Vision to either restart the Ultron project or try to bring Vision back or do some other kind of AI thing. But again, I think that makes him a dick. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad guy. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Somebody's saying, Bill is saying in the live chat, as long as it wasn't John Wick's dog, she's okay. If that was John Wick's dog, then he'd be in trouble. All right. Sam also writes, I'm also surprised Hayward didn't get an alarm that Monica entered the hex through, though we might see that next episode. Yeah. Did you notice that? There was absolutely no alarms going off. Nobody knew that she was trying to drive a truck through the hex or entered it herself. So that makes me wonder, do the alarms only going off as something is coming out of the hex? Because technically speaking, the only times we've seen the alarms going off is when something's coming out of the hex. We haven't seen alarms going off for something going into the hex that we know of. Just something to keep in mind there. All right, let's see where we at. Nathikins writes, these short episodes are killing me. Were they originally planning on releasing WandaVision on Quibi? I like that. Of course, Quibi was a service that only put out 10-minute pieces of content. That is funny. That's funny. I like that. But yes, the shortness of these episodes is frustrating. In a show that I'm very much enjoying, and they're great, these episodes are too short. I'm not looking for filler. I'm not looking for everything, but even just the content in these episodes, they could use a little room to breathe. They are moving at like a lightning pace, which sometimes is good, but sometimes you got to change gears a bit, but I feel it. All right, next up, KM Reviews writes, Wanda's running low on bandwidth after expanding the hex. That's what I was just saying. Agatha has slowly been manipulating her use of magic to weaken her. She's the shark. Yep. And maybe it's not just like, I don't think Agatha planned on Wanda expanding the hex, but I do think it's a combination of Wanda expanding the hex and exerting more power and the fact she's being fed on. I think she's being fed on the whole time. And we'll see how they actually bring that to some kind of thing later on. All right. Black Rice 19 writes, the aerospace engineer turned out to be meaningless, right? Not necessarily. Agatha works for the eventual Big Bad in Doctor Strange 2, I believe. That's a popular theory, Black Rice. Has been around for a long time. Like literally right from like episode 3, I've been hearing theories of people think that Agatha is a villain and that she ultimately works for somebody, maybe Mephisto, maybe Nightmare, that will be the villain in Doctor Strange 2. Let's not lose sight, though, that the next chapter of this particular story arc is actually Spider-Man 3. Doctor Strange 2 isn't up next. Spider-Man 3 is up next. So how does that tie in? Don't know. We'll find out. All right. Timothy Platt writes, Paul Bettany and the opening theme were my favorite parts of this episode. I love the opening theme, and Paul Bettany is always great. He and Elizabeth Olsen, Timothy, have been absolutely crushing it this series. And it's always nice to see these characters now interact with different characters. So that's been really good too. Juno Faulkner writes, definitely my favorite episode so far. Finally got answers to a few questions, and I love the mockumentary setup. I bit a kid once. That might be my favorite. That might have replaced my favorite line in this series. My previous favorite line was from like episode 2 or 3 when they turned the piano into a poster of a piano, and the guy goes, that was my aunt's piano or my mom's piano or something like that. That to me was the funniest line in the show so far. I bit a kid once. That is now my favorite line in the show so far. All right. Next up, Solar Eclipse Productions sends in like a $27 super chat. Thank you so much, Solar Eclipse. Prior to watching this week, I watched Marvel's new documentary, Behind the Mask. And it's got to be said, without that groundwork and the approach and philosophy the old guard had, we wouldn't have stories like WandaVision at the quality they are. Just wanted to remember the past with the present day. You know, that's a good thing to throw in there. I have not watched that yet, Solar Eclipse, but I have had people telling me about it. And Anne actually, it was Anne who brought it up to me the other day, who was saying that we should sit down and watch that. So I think at some point, Anne and I are probably going to sit down and watch it. And I think what you're saying here is absolutely true. Like, one of the big things about why the MCU can do a lot of the things it can do now was because of the groundwork that was laid before it. We got to remember that all the Marvel MCU stuff we watch now is standing on the shoulders of the groundwork and the foundation that has been done prior to it. And I think Solar Eclipse raises a fabulous point here about that. And that's something we always got to keep in mind moving forward. So well said, sir. And I do have to go and check that out myself. I got to go check that out myself. Thanks for bringing it up, man. All right. Richard K writes, who also sends in like a $27 super chat. Thank you, man. Richard writes, 1 of 3. With Agatha being unveiled as the resin behind it all, Capsule Pietro just be a spell. Let me try this again. With Agatha being unveiled as the resin behind it all, Capsule, Pietro, just be a spell. So once Wander defeats her, he disappears again as he is dead and with Vision, and the twins gonna bite instead of bit the dust soon with this Wander. Let's see if I can find part 2. Okay, so part 2. So with this Wander turns crazy, starts wrecking shop in the town, and Sword, nobody can stop her. She think she's alone. All of a sudden, we get a camera view from behind, someone floating down. It's Magneto. And then Magneto tells her, Wanda, stop what you're doing. You're not alone. Pietro isn't dead. And the real Evan Peters arrives from seeing still have family. And I am your father. Stop this, please. And the camera pans and it's Fassbender. What are the chances? Pretty much zero. I'm going to go pretty much zero on that actually happening. I think pretty much zero on that. But listen, but something that you're saying there, Richard, does kind of jive with what I've been thinking the last couple of weeks, which is I still think, call me crazy, I still think Aaron Taylor Johnson's going to pop up. I still think Aaron Taylor Johnson's going to pop up. And the reason I think that is because they had mentioned Pietro before and nothing, right? They mentioned Pietro before, nothing. And then all of a sudden, in one of the previously on WandaVision, all of a sudden they show Aaron Taylor Johnson Pietro from Age of Ultron when they didn't show that in the previously on WandaVision. If they were going to show that, they should have shown the previous one, but they did it later. So again, I'm going to ask you guys to participate here. Those of you in the live chat, my theory, I still think Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to appear. I have no insider information, none. I'm just pulling that out of my ass. I'm just guessing wildly. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to appear. Yes or no? What do you guys think? I'm seeing yes, no, he's dead. I think not, yes, nah, no, yes. And then I'm seeing a lot of no. It looks to me, I can't be scientific about this, but it looks like there are more no's than yeses. I'm seeing a bunch of yeses, but I think there are more no's than yeses. Well, now I'm seeing a whole bunch of yeses and then a few more no's. I'm seeing some maybes thrown in there at some point. Who knows, says Master in there. So I mean, like, I'm just thinking, again, I'm pulling that out of my ass. This is just me as an average film fan speculating, but I think there is a possibility there. I don't know. We'll find out. All right. Let's move on here. Luke Dennis writes, kind of disappointed all the hype, but very little. Well, I mean, if you're talking about the hype, remember, we're the ones who made the hype, right? Starting with me and then everyone else, we're the ones who made the hype. WandaVision gave 2 lines in 2 episodes. I think I know an astro engineer who can help with that. And, we got to go meet my guy in an hour. That's it. 2 lines. If anybody is guilty of overhyping, it's us. I'm just saying I'm still not convinced that we have actually met the engineer yet. I'm still not convinced, but we're just saying. All right, Sam Fisher writes, really love the documentary interviews, especially Vision and Darcy, I agree. And Darcy as the escape artist makes so much sense. I like the fact that when we first see Darcy, because remember, she was handcuffed when she got enveloped into the hex. So I like the fact that the first time we see her, she's actually all chained up like an escaped artist and stuff like that. I thought that was very clever. All right, next up, Suthius writes, Feige laughing his butt off with the engineer reveal. Again, I'm still not convinced that we've actually had the engineer revealed yet. I'm still not convinced. I'm not convinced the other way either, but I think there's some there. But yes, I think Kevin Feige's laughing at us for a lot of our theories. All right, Dion Hennerby writes, the simplest answer is usually the right one. The engineer was nothing more than a way to move the story forward. Very possible. Now people are all butthurt. Yep. Now, I'm not butthurt about it. Like, I, as much as anybody, was expecting a big reveal in this episode about this engineer. But that was my own fault for getting hyped up when really Marvel didn't do anything to press it. But what you can't do is when something you think is going to happen doesn't happen. And we see this in the Star Wars fan base all the time. Just because your theory didn't work out doesn't mean the show wasn't great or anything like that. But you're right. A lot of us are acting a little bit butthurt. It's true. All right. Actual writes, the showrunner to the engineer theorists. Ha, gotcha. Also love that Agatha confirmation. Snooper's going to snoop. Again, I still want to know what's going on with him. They made it too obvious that he's not actually Pietro. that I'm kind of starting to suspect maybe he is. I'm not there yet. I'm not convinced. I'm still sticking with he's not, but man, this show has got me going all sorts of ways, actual. It's got me going all sorts of ways. All right, Matthew Cassidy writes, was that the Darkhold? No, it wasn't the Darkhold. A lot of channels are sending out hate because it was a filler episode. Who the hell is saying it's a filler episode? This sets up a crazy finale, so everyone relax. What was filler about this episode? What was filler about? Monica getting her powers, Agatha being revealed, Vision getting in, progressing with his investigation, all this, finding Darcy and Vision team up at some. What was filler about this episode? I do not understand that at all. I don't understand anybody who's saying that at all. That is just crazy talk to me. Anyway, Benjamin GL writes, this is my philosophy for theory crafting. If I were the direct, you probably mean were. Okay. This is my philosophy for theory crafting. If I were the director / writer / CEO of Disney, what would I do next? Predicted 70% of Mando, 90% of WandaVision so far. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Honestly, Benjamin, everybody who doesn't have all their predictions on public display, everybody says 90% of their predictions have come true so far. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying that's generally what I found. Everybody says that all their predictions. Everybody who, from the safety of anonymity, who hasn't made a public record for all their stuff like I do, I put everything out there. You guys see every prediction I make, every caveat I claim, everything. It's out there. There it is. But I find everybody who doesn't actually have that always says, and I'm not saying you're doing it, Benjamin. I'm just saying everybody always says, oh no, all my theories were right. Really? And maybe yours were, Benjamin. Maybe yours were. But, I'm just saying it. I cannot help but roll my eyes a little bit. Whenever I hear somebody said, oh yeah, I knew that. I got like 80% and 90% of my predictions were right. Really? Anyway, that's just me. But I'm not saying it's you, Benjamin. I'm not saying it's you. All right, let's see. Bradley Angst writes, aerospace engineer was a nobody, biggest disappointment, but it's probably our fault as fans boosting up ours and others' expectations. We got Photon, though. Here's the thing, though. Why is it a disappointment? The story was still really good. The story of Maria being able to reach out, or Monica, I should say, of Monica being reached out to other sword personnel who were loyal to her mother Maria, and by extension are loyal to her and are willing to go behind the director's back to extend that loyalty and do this stuff for Monica. That's good storytelling. So why are we disappointed? Because at the end of the day, I and you were all a bunch of fucking 7-year-old children. Show me the big explosion. Show me Reed Richards. I mean, that's me. That was you. That was us. We turned into a bunch of driveling 7-year-old children. They just told a really good story. Like, that whole thing was actually really well conceived and really well crafted. It played well. It was a good story. But ultimately, I set myself up for disappointment. But I got to remember, it wasn't the show that disappointed me. It was me that disappointed me, right? It was me. I set this up in my own head that it was going to be this, and this. And reality is Marvel never did. And at the end of the day, they actually told a really good story and put in a really nice hook in there. But it wasn't, boom, Dr. Doom shows up. Victor Von Doom is the thing. And if it isn't the big boom, then we say, oh, what was the point? You know what I mean? And by the way, I'm calling myself out on this. I'm a part of this. I'm as much a part of the problem as anybody else. And so, but we got to be able to push past that and then recognize if it was a good story or not. But that's what I do, man. That's what we do. That's what we do. And sometimes it makes being a fan exciting, and sometimes it makes being a fan a little bit of a pain in the ass. But you're right. We got nobody to blame but ourselves, and I'll include myself in that. All right. Okay. I mean, again, like, Like I said, as much as anybody, I was convinced. You guys remember I said about the thing, right? I said, no way they don't have somebody big because they've mentioned it twice, said I. They've mentioned it twice. Even though they were just simple little single lines. But I was convinced, no, they said it twice. Oh, it's going to be big. It's going to be big. Tony Stark might come back. It might be Reed Richards. Maybe it's Quentin Beck. Maybe it's Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer is going to be, right? We get all hyped up. We convince ourselves that this was me doing it to myself. And instead, they told a really nice little story part and moved on. And by the way, I still don't necessarily think that we're not still going to get a big reveal of the engineer or somebody else. I'm still not convinced of that. But if they don't, it was still a good story hook. And I liked what they did, even though it wasn't what I was expecting. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Luke Skywalker thing in The Last Jedi. I wanted to defecate myself, right? I wanted Luke Skywalker to show up, and I wanted him to pull out his lightsaber, and I wanted him to wreck an entire battalion of stormtroopers on his own. I wanted to see him take down walkers, and I wanted to see him reach up with his hand and pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky, and I wanted to see all that. But they gave me something very, very different. And I actually like what they did. I like what they did with Luke. I didn't like everything they did in The Last Jedi, but I like what they did with Luke in The Last Jedi. It was very intimate. It was very character-driven. It felt very real to me. And with this reminds me of that situation, because here I am talking myself up again. It's like, it's going to be this guy, or it could be this guy, or it could be this guy, or maybe it's this guy. And maybe it still will be. Maybe it still will be. We got 2 episodes to go. But if it wasn't, it was still pretty good. It was still good what they gave us, but I don't know. I got no one to blame but myself. All right. Where are we at now? Cam K writes, that bleep bleep piece of bleep, she killed Sparky. And that was my favorite line of that whole last part. Oh, by the way, and I killed Sparky too. But I mean, we knew she killed the dog, right? Like, didn't we say that the other week? Look, clearly Agnes killed the dog. Why she killed the dog, don't know. Why she did that, I have no idea. But clearly she killed the dog. That much was truly evident. All right, we move on now. Sam Fisher writes, I don't think Agatha is the only main villain, because what is her motivation for locking Wanda in the hex? Oh, whoa. Time out, Sam. Who says she locked Wanda in the hex? She didn't. Wanda can walk in and out of the hex whenever she wants. I'm still fairly certain Wanda made the hex. I don't think she's locked Wanda in the hex. I think right now that she is taking advantage of the situation that Wanda has created and is feeding on her magic, maybe to release her master Mephisto, maybe to unlock that book. I know we keep coming back to it. Let me see if I can bring it up here again. I know we keep coming back to this book, but listen, obviously this book was shaking and was circled with power. Maybe she's trying to pull like siphon power out of Wanda to get this book to open, and maybe that'll open the realm for, I don't know, for Nightmare to come out, or for Mephisto, or for somebody else. I don't know. We'll see, but I do not think she is holding Wanda captive there, because we've already seen Wanda come in and out at will, right? So don't forget about that. All right, next up. Benjamin GL writes, that sneak peek at Agnes's costume, screw you, Hot Toys. Where's my life-size Grogu? I'm telling you though, I wouldn't mind that Hot Toy. That Agnes in the witch costume, I'll take that one. But didn't Hot Toys put out like a life-size Grogu? I think they did. I think I know somebody who's got that one. Or are you saying you ordered yours, Benjamin, and you're just waiting for yours to show up? If that's the case, I could totally feel your frustration, my friend. All right. KM Reviews writes, Director Matt Shackman, in an interview with Frosty, confirmed the series is roughly 6 hours, beginning to end. When asked specifically, with credits included, we are only at 4 hours and 2 minutes. But again, the phrase there is roughly. It's roughly. That honestly is a very, very flexible term. It could be 5 hours and 52 minutes, and you would call that roughly 6 hours. It could be 6 hours and 12 minutes, and you'd call that roughly 6 hours. So what I was saying is like nobody from Marvel ever came out and said, because somebody once said that WandaVision is like a 6-hour movie. But what happened is a bunch of people took that literally. They said, okay, 6 hours. That's how long the series is. It's 6 hours long. And then they went and added up the amount of runtime for episodes 1 through 5 or 1 through 6. And then they deduced, it's been almost, 3 hours so far. That means each of the last 3 episodes are going to be an hour long. And then all these headlines ran that the last 3 episodes are all going to be an hour long. And of course it's not. So again, the key phrase here is roughly. Roughly is a very flexible, very ambiguous term. Now, I do expect the final 2 episodes to be longer. But again, never think we've got an accurate count on anything when anybody uses the word roughly. Anyway, next up. Blake Buono writes, so Agnes killed Sparky. Yep, we knew she did. Come on, we all knew she killed the dog. They just need to call John Wick and he will. I'm seeing so many John Wick memes today. But thankfully, she knew not to do that to John Wick's dog, Blake. She knew not to do that to John Wick's dog. All right, Cam. Cam. Kay writes, we saw purple magic influence Wanda. Could this mean redemption for Wanda? I'll tell you what, that is my one fear. Now, remember, I still think most of this is Wanda's doing. I still think this is going to end badly for Wanda. She's going to lose Vision again, even if it's not the real Vision. She's going to lose Pietro again, even if it's not the real Pietro. She's going to lose her kids, even if they're not real kids. They could be, may not be, whatever, for all of them. But I still think it's going to end badly. I still think it's a good thing, and I still think she's responsible for a lot of it, if not most of it. That said, this episode made me a little bit worried. Because whereas I have been kind of thinking, because of the pure uniqueness, originality, and a different path that this show has been from everything else we've seen, especially out of Marvel, I am now a little bit afraid that we are going to end up with a traditional, stereotypical, cookie cutter, paint by numbers, same old comic book superhero movie ending. Where, don't worry, I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kids. Like, I feel like I'm a little bit afraid we're going to go back to business as usual. And don't get me wrong, business as usual is a good business. It's, especially if you're in the MCU. Business as usual is a fabulous business. But with how fantastically different this show has been, I've really thought that it looked like we were heading towards a truly, and I don't mean this in hyperbole, I mean this truly, a Shakespearean kind of tragedy ending to this, which to me would just elevate the MCU. And now I'm a little bit worried we're going to go back to the same old, run-of-the-mill, same song yesterday, same song today, same song tomorrow, paint by numbers, cookie cutter, comic book ending. Wow, it's a good thing we caught that bad guy. Sure thing, Mr. Hero. Yay, dun, 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 dun. Then the music plays and confetti flies in the air. And Jar Jar Binks goes, whee! And like all that kind of stuff. And now listen, if they do, it's still Kevin Feige, and he'll find a way to make it fun, and he'll find a way to make it good, and he'll find a way to make it great. He will. So I'm not saying if they don't have this Shakespearean kind of ending, that means WandaVision sucks. No. I'm sure Kevin Feige will still come up with a great way to stick the landing on this. I'm just saying, I've really been excited that it's looked like they were heading towards this very different kind of thing. And I'm a little worried now that they might be doing that, Cam, that they're in a full redemption for Wanda. The heroes prevail at the end. Isn't it great to be a good guy, guys? Yeah, it sure is great to be a good guy. Yay! And again, Kevin Feige will find a way to make it work. I'm just a little nervous of it. All right, let's move on. Next up, Rich Care we already did. Suthius writes, good to see Monica still okay after Agatha took her. Agatha took Monica? I'm not quite sure what we're talking about. I don't think Agatha took Monica, so I'm not quite sure what we're talking about. Brian Williams writes, so good. Pietro was at Wanda's doorstep prior to Agatha using her magic. Does that mean Evan Peters is the real Quicksilver? Thanks, Ann and John. Well, I've never thought he was the real Quicksilver. And I don't think that little flashback at all implied that he was there already on his own before she started using her magic. I'm not saying it's implying the opposite either. I'm not saying the opposite is true either, but I'm saying I didn't get anything from that. But anyway, I've always assumed whoever this Quicksilver is got himself to the doorstep, and I've never thought it's the real Quicksilver. Now, I am questioning a lot of things after this last episode. So, I don't know. We'll see, man. We'll see. All right, next up. Justin D writes, didn't love this one. I had my hopes up that Wanda was behind all of it. That was interesting to me. Agatha reveal kind of deflated it for me a bit. Remember, it looks to me, and I could be wrong, but it looks to me like that whole Agatha song and dance at the end was still saying that Wanda is the one who set this whole thing up. Wanda created the hex. And it looked like Agatha just came into it. She inserted herself into Wanda's fantasy. I mean, that's what it looked like to me at any rate, right? I still believe a lot of this is her responsibility. And remember, that little Agatha song and dance at the end never showed Agatha doing anything other than kind of nudging Wanda a little bit and influencing things. I still think there's very much a lot of this is Wanda's doing. Now, I could be wrong. They may come out and say something otherwise next time, but we will see. All right, next up. Cam K writes, Monica got her powers and it was Agatha Harkness. Can you jump aboard the Mephisto train yet? I'm telling you, listen, I was 100%, well, 90%. I was 90% off the Mephisto or Nightmare train until that Shark Yo magic. Once the Shark Yo magic commercial hit, I'm like, okay. I'm still not convinced, but Nightmare and Mephisto are bigger possibilities than I thought. More Nightmare than Mephisto, but still they're bigger possibilities than I thought. With what we saw in Agatha's basement, I think that heightens it even more. And I think, listen, in life, you make guesses with what information you have. As you get more information, you need to adjust what it is you think and believe. And I think I am now having to come to the point where I'm going to call it a coin toss. Right now, I'm at a coin toss that it's Mephisto. So I'll go 50-50 on it. But we'll see. All right. Next up. Kara Black writes, John, saw your message of support yesterday to us Texas film fans during the big snowstorm. Thankfully, I never lost my power. It was only my water. Well, only your water? I mean, you need water. And that has been affected due to the freezing. Thanks. Yeah. And again, listen, guys, seriously, it's fun. It's awesome that we're here to talk about WandaVision and why wasn't Reed Richards there? Oh, is she a witch? Maybe the demon Mephisto. Perhaps. I mean, it's fun for us to talk about this as I am clearly enjoying myself, having a good time. But the reality is, this is one thing. There's a lot of real life drama going on, particularly with our fellow film-loving, TV-loving brothers and sisters in film fandom who are down in Texas right now. There's a lot of crap going on. The people are cold. People don't have water. People are getting carbon monoxide poisoning for trying to keep themselves warm. There's some really serious stuff going on down there. And I encourage everybody who watches, hey, you know what, today? $1. There are right now 4,300 live viewers watching this stream right now. There are going to be 50, 60, 70, 80,000 more of you who watch this video later. if every one of us, Ann and I did this earlier today, if every one of us just went to a Red Cross website or one of the other organizations that's helping organize relief efforts for people in Texas and donated $1, that'd be like $75,000 we could raise. Do that. So I want to encourage everybody to do that. And again, we'll get back to our horsing around here talking about WandaVision in a second. But honestly, there's some real serious shit going on. And if you guys can go and help out our fellow film loving brothers and sisters down there in Texas, that would be great. Okay, let's get back to the nonsense now. All right, and hang in there, Kara, and I hope you're doing well. All right, next up, Marie Seifring writes, I found it interesting that Billy said he liked it at Agatha's house because it was quiet and that Agatha was quiet inside. Thanks. Oh, no, that was a total sign. Again, for me, the part that made me turn to Anne and go, oh, damn, she is really Agatha Harkness, was when she offered to take the kids. When she came into Wanda's house and offered to take the kids, she took the kids, and I'm like, shit, she really is Agatha Harkness. That became clear to me then. But if there were still some people who were like me and kind of thinking it wasn't Agatha Harkness, then the moment that happened, Billy looked at her and says, I like quiet. You're quiet. Okay, well, obviously supernatural being going on here. So that was kind of the free-for-all there. Okay, next up. Richard K. writes, what if the guy engineer that Monica was talking about is actually Tony Stark and we see Robert Downey Jr. as a cameo in this AMD? Oh, and that's why Olsen meant when she said, wait and see who we got coming. Oh, listen, Richard, I brought that up myself on the show the other day. Now, you guys know that I 1,000% guarantee that Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU. I said that about Chris Evans as well, and now we've got official confirmation Chris Evans is coming back to the MCU. I guarantee Robert Downey Jr. is too. Now, I don't know if it'll be this year. I don't know if it will be next year. I don't know if it'll be in 3 years. I don't know. But he'll be back. Oh, he'll be back. But even I, who really believes that Robert Downey Jr. is coming back, kind of feel like it's a little too early. He really hasn't been gone long at all. They've barely buried Tony Stark at this point. So it's probably a little bit too early, but you bet your ass if like Tony Stark saying, what are people doing with my toys? He pulls up in a car in a suit and all that kind of stuff. Oh my God. Yeah. The frickin' internet would explode. It would absolutely explode. It would be mayhem, Richard. It would be absolute mayhem. All right, next up. Suthius writes, Monica, Wanda, and Vision teaming up for villain? Maybe, but again, that's stereotypical, run-of-the-mill, paint-by-numbers, cookie-cutter superhero ending. Oh, the big threat and all the heroes get together and fight the threat. Yay! So yeah, but it looks like that's what they could be doing, Suthius. Kara Black writes, Snooper's gonna snoop. I don't know why I love that line so much. Why is Snoopers gonna snoop such a great line? I mean, I have no idea. I thought the line was amazing. I'm not sure why I thought it was amazing. I'm not sure why everybody else thinks it's so amazing. It's actually kind of a dumb line, but I loved it. When I heard him say Snoop is gonna snoop, I don't know why. I chuckled, man. I chuckled a lot. I love the line. All right, Marie Seifring writes, also, is it Wanda who is creating all the traffic obstructions to keep Vision from returning home, or is it Agatha? I don't know. I mean, they did set it up earlier in the episode that right now Wanda just needed a break from Vision. Remember she said, I need a day to myself. So it would be consistent with what they were saying earlier in the episode if they end up having it say that it was Wanda keeping him away. That would be consistent with what they said earlier. I'm not saying that's proof, but, Wanda did say she was clearly a little miffed with Vision right now. She said she wanted a day completely to herself. So that would be consistent, but maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. All right, Cam K writes, I think the commercial was referring to Wanda being a Nexus being. They are like focal points in the universe. Check it out if you're interested. No, yeah, I was talking about that. The Nexus of all realities. And I know in the comics they said she's this, that, and the other thing, but I just don't feel like that's how they set it up in the MCU. You can bring in the Nexus of all realities and now create a new connection with Wanda, but I don't know that she is, a being of the Nexus. You know what I mean? Don't know for sure, but maybe. All right. Let's take another one. Campea writes, so Darkhold confirmed? No, again, that wasn't the Darkhold. I did a photo comparison. You can go and photo compare it yourself to what they had, but it's not the Darkhold. Unless, remember how I was telling you before that Kevin Feige hates Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He wants nothing to do with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's a reason Kevin Feige never had any of the movies reference Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's a reason for that. What if, theoretically, Kevin Feige wanted to use the Darkhold, but didn't want to be connected with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Okay. Let's just say this. Let's just make it look different and pretend like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing didn't even exist. So there's two options. Kevin Feige hates Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so much that he just decided to make a new Darkhold and say, everybody just ignore that thing that's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That thing's not real. Or they're not saying this is the Darkhold. Because clearly it's not the same one that was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it's either Kevin Feige saying, guys, that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing is nothing. Ignore that. That's not real. So ignore the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing. This is the Darkhold. Or they're going to say it's something else. So it's got to be one of the two things, I think. Right now, I got to think it's one of those two things. All right. Next up, we are going to say Suthius writes, her mental state is affecting her grasp on powers. Yeah, I think that plays into it too, Suthius. I think it's the exhaustion from expanding the thing. I think it's being fed on by Agatha and whoever else, but also just her mental state might be doing it as well. All right, last question we're going to take before we take a short break, guys. The Wakandan Forever writes, hidden in plain sight. It was Agatha all along. I have questions. Who was the engineer? Where are the kids? Who is Quicksilver? Super Monica? Oh, I mean, yes, there's still a lot of questions. I would argue that even with the reveal of Agatha and the reveal of Monica having her powers already, which I didn't think was going to happen until Captain Marvel 2, I would contend there are actually more questions coming out of this episode than we had going in, even though they addressed a couple of things. I think there are even more questions right now than we had before. So I don't know. There's so many, like the Quicksilver one to me is the big thing. To me, the Quicksilver question is even bigger than who is behind Agatha. How much of this is Wanda's doing still? And even bigger than those, to me, is that Quicksilver question. And we'll find out soon enough. Okay, guys, I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to use the bathroom. We've been going over an hour and a half. And, of course, I did a couple hours earlier today at the John Campea Show. So I got to rest the voice for just a couple of minutes. I got to go refill my drink. I'm going to use the bathroom. Give you guys a chance to talk amongst yourselves for a few minutes. Maybe you want to run and grab a bathroom break as well. But don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back. I'll see you in just a couple of minutes. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as we took just a little bit of a break there. Now, let's get right back into it. And we're going to start things off here with, no, we already did Wakanda Forever. Now we're down to Kid Draco. And Kid Draco writes, 1 to 2. I think Agatha is trying to revive Nightmare. That's a common theory. You may not fear off. By feeding off Wanda's magic, Strange and Wanda team up to take him down. This possibility, again, I kind of hope not. Same old cookie cutter, run-of-the-mill, ho-hum. We've seen this a million times before, kind of comic book ending. But again, if anybody's going to make it good, it's going to be Kevin Feige. So we'll see where they're going with that. But you're not alone in that theory, Kid Draco. Not alone in that theory. All right, CTB channel writes, Agatha Harkness confirmed. I think that book needs high levels of magic to work, and Agnes is draining Wanda's maybe to unleash hell. That's kind of what it looks like right now, doesn't it, CTB? I mean, that book wasn't just some random book sitting around. That book was fusing with power and kind of shaking a little bit, and the camera intentionally focused right on it. So there is something there right now. Something there right now. We'll have to wait and see, but I kind of think you're right. We need more information. We'll get more information in episode 8, but for right now, I kind of think you're right. De Freitas writes, but John Feige lied to us, LOL. In the words of McGregor, who the fuck is that guy? In all seriousness, is there any significance in comic lore to the lady that Maria met up with? As far as I know, no. And you're talking about the one that was loyal to her mother. So, and it's Monica, not Maria. It's Monica. Maria's her mother. I made that same mistake earlier in the show. But I will say this. I'm not convinced that was the engineer. I don't think she was the engineer. I'm not convinced that she wasn't, but I'm not convinced that she was. But no, I did not recognize the name given. I saw, unless I missed something intentionally, I did not say, I did not see any significance in there at all. I don't think there's any significance to the character. I don't think that character's rooted in anything in the comic books at this point. So whether that means she was or wasn't the engineer, I still don't know. We'll see. I still think it's a possibility, though. We'll find out. All right. Suthius, Agus's line, I actually did bite a kid once. Favorite line in the whole show now. Cam K writes, oh, it's all Wanda. Oh, it's Agatha all along. I know, right? That's the thing. We've got to learn. When are we going to learn? Don't take anything in this show at face value. All right? Don't take anything in this show at face value. I mean, we think we would now know that after 7 episodes. But they said it was all Wanda. Yeah, turns out it wasn't. But now they said it's all Agatha. Yeah, they're saying that now, but there's still 2 episodes to go. It could be, could not be. We'll see. Next up, Mr. Hank Dunn writes, I woke up at 3 a.m. for this snooze of an episode. I'm sorry you didn't like it, man. I thought it was great. I personally thought it was great. Aaron McDonough writes, I love that Agatha got her own theme intro. So did I. I thought that was really fun. They top themselves every week. Also, love the little adventure with Darcy. Her costume looked so cool. I liked her costume too. Then again, I'm not going to lie to you. You guys have heard me say for a month now, more than a month, that I think Kat Dennings is delightful. I think she's funny. I think she's a wonderful performer, and I love watching her work. I'm not going to lie to you, too. I also find her damn attractive. She's also really attractive. I thought that outfit was smoking. I thought that outfit on her was absolutely smoking. So there's that, too. All right, next up. Lucky Dragon writes, Soldier Lady was not engineer. We never met them. That's kind of what I'm thinking too, Lady Dragon, right now. I'm not 100% convinced of that, but I'm kind of thinking that myself too. We'll find out. Benjamin GL writes, I wonder if looking back, we might say they should have released the last 2 or 3 episodes at once in one big event. No, they should release these week to week. I think this is the best way to do it. It continues to build up the excitement. It builds up our anticipation. It does all these things. And so, no, I don't think in any way, shape, or form, we're ever, not with any rational thought, look back and say, well, what they really should have done is release it. No. That might have been nice and fun for us because we could have watched it all at once. But they are getting huge benefit from having a week-by-week release and having this go 9 weeks. The longer this show goes, the more benefit they reap. So I really don't think there's any benefit for them to release like the last 3 episodes at the same time. Axel writes, also, just want to say, I genuinely feel spoiled that while it drops at 12 a.m. for you in California, it's only 7 p.m. here in Sydney. That's awesome, man. But still awesome that we can all watch together at the same time. Yeah, listen, I got to say, I put out a video the other day that because Disney Plus's main audience is in North America, that I felt that instead of releasing it at 3 a.m. New York time, they should probably release it at like 9 p.m. New York time. 6 p.m. in California. More people in their core countries could do that. But either way, it is great that it releases at the same moment across the globe for everybody. And that at the end of the day, we're all getting to watch the show together. And that's pretty cool, Axel. That's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that thought, man. All right, next up, Benjamin GL writes, so glad I got lucky to watch at 3 a.m. because if I hadn't, my iOS notifications were all Agatha Harkness, and that was from people like CNN. So much for spoil. Yeah, I know. Listen, it's the thing that I keep telling people about television stuff. I personally like to give 24 hours. But the reality is, if you want to stay spoiler-free for something on television that has already come out, then the responsibility is on you and me to stay off social media until we can watch it. Like, if it's a football game, people aren't going to not talk about the results of the football game just because you haven't watched it yet. You may have DVR'd it or recorded it digitally or whatever, but people aren't going to stay quiet about it just because you haven't watched it yet. So the responsibility is not on everybody else to not talk about. The responsibility is on us to be careful. And that's one of the drawbacks of it coming out at like 12 at midnight or 3 a.m. is that if you can't watch it, then you got to be so careful from the moment you wake up that you don't get spoiled from what happened the night before. No, there's no perfect system. That is one of the drawbacks, Benjamin. You're right about that. Christy Myers writes, Agnes killed Sparky. Turns out the big cameo is going to be John Wick coming to rep shot. I'm telling you, I keep seeing all these memes about John Wick. Some people even saying that now John Wick is going to come into the MCU as Ghost Rider and take out Agatha for doing that. We'll see, Christy. We'll see. All right. Hamza writes, please continue pregame shows. I loved it. Listen, even though it turned out that a lot of stuff we are talking about, other than Vision, Quicksilver, we're talking about the engineer. We talked about the 4 possibilities. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I had a blast doing the pregame show last night. I had a blast because we weren't worrying about what did or didn't happen the night before, which is still great to do here on the spoilers, but it was kind of fun just having a pregame where all we could do is just sit down and speculate about what happens tonight. I had way more fun. Actually, Robert Meyer Burnett called me today, and we were talking on the phone. And he was saying, man, I watched a bunch of that pregame show. I haven't seen you have that much fun doing a video in a while. I'm like, right? It was a lot of fun. I had a really, really good time doing it. I hope it was fun for you guys too. So yes, we are going to do a pregame show for the final 2 episodes of WandaVision as well. We will be doing pregame shows for that because I just had too good of a time. All right. Thanks for that, Hamza. Nick C. writes, I think the Agatha stuff is just a ruse, hiding the true big bad, Mephisto/Nightmare. A lot of people are thinking that, Nick. All the stuff on the walls in the fortress look demonic. Yeah, and again, the book. I mean, at the risk of sounding like a broken record here, the book. Because I'm sorry, but this isn't some just random plot device. This isn't some random prop sitting around, right? But it's not just that. It's the glyphs that were on the wall. It was the statues that you saw. It was the busts that you saw. The skulls on shelves, but also this damn book. This damn book is something we got to, I'm telling you, there's something going on here. And obviously the fact that there was all this power surrounding the book and the book was shaking, there's something involved there. There's something involved there. All right. Thanks for that, Nick. Next up, Arpan Archaya, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, writes, Agatha Harkness is already my favorite MCU villain. Catherine Hahn is brilliant. She always is. The absence of the kids is killing me, and the mid-credits scene freaked me out. Yeah, where are the kids, Arpan? That's going to be a huge question moving forward right now. Where are they? I don't think they're dead yet. Some people are thinking she already killed them. I don't think she did. But I don't think they're going to make it out of the show. Nick C. writes, with Monica's powers now coming to fruition, does this mean that she is the first mutant? No. Enter into the MCU. I wonder if everyone in the bubble will mutate. Again, I don't think there's anything like that. That's completely contradictory to how mutants work. So no, I don't think she's going to be considered a mutant. Any more than the Hulk is considered a mutant, you know? Something happened to Bruce Banner that gave him the powers of the Hulk. That doesn't make him a mutant, right? The Hulk's not considered a mutant. Something happened to Captain America, to Steve Rogers, that gave him his Captain America powers. That doesn't mean he was a mutant by any stretch of the imagination. So no, I don't think they're going to say Monica's a mutant. I do not believe they're going to say Monica is a mutant. Let's see. What's next? Oh yeah, next up. Also, Nick. Also, what happened to the astral engineer? You mean the astro engineer? Monica didn't even mention them as she drives in. Do you think they are building up like Luke in Mandalorian? Again, everybody jumps to the conclusion, oh, there wasn't some big engineer reveal. Time out. If there's anything we should have learned by now is that we shouldn't jump to any conclusions. I am not convinced one way or the other, but I'm not convinced that we're not still going to get a big reveal of who this engineer is. I'm not convinced we are, but I'm not convinced we're not either. So everybody should hold on to that. All right, next up, Christina B. writes, theory. Wanda was manipulated to create a pocket reality to make a Big Bang-like explosion to remake Mind Stone, and it went awry, and she created Westview. Well, no, Westview was always a town. Westview was always a part of their reality. They identified all the people inside of it, except for Agnes, because now we know why. She's Agatha Harkness. And yeah, now I still had a theory. Remember, I had a theory before that the essence of the Mind Stone was trying to get Wanda to give it corporeal form again. That is looking like that's not the case. I didn't buy into that theory, but I liked that theory. I thought that theory had some really good legs to it. I can't remember which one of you guys wrote that in initially, but I liked that theory. But it seems like the more and more, as we're now getting into the final two episodes, probably not. But I don't know. Maybe the Mind Stone really is at play here. We'll find out. All right. Tracy Dale writes, so, based on the episode and post-credit scene, is it pretty likely that faux Pietro is Mephisto now? Again, I am not sure. Like, I never thought he was actually Pietro. He's fake Pietro. But I never thought he was fake Pietro by being Mephisto. Some people think he's Agatha's son. And some people think he's still actually the Fox X-Men Pietro. And I am more confused about it now than I have ever been. I still think he's not the real Pietro, but like with everything being so thrown into chaos here, it's really hard for me to say one way or the other, Tracy. It is very difficult for me to say one way or the other. So I don't know. We'll find out. But listen, I'll say this. It is possible. Like, it's possible that the next episode of WandaVision starts with Monica being led down into that basement where Wanda and Agnes are, and her hands are tied behind her back, and it's faux Pietro. When you find out it's Mephisto, says, look who I found sneaking around. And he manifests. I don't know. Suppose it's possible. I still don't think so, but it's more possible now than ever before, Tracy. Next up, Jess Denk writes, How creepy was the voices / screams going on as Wanda was walking into the basement? Oh, damn. No, seriously, they set that up beautifully. They set that up absolutely beautifully. It was really kind of creepy the way they set that whole thing up. I like the way they did that, Jess. I really did. Craig Farrell writes, 1 of 3. Paul Bettany gave an interview with Esquire yesterday stating that the secret cameo isn't Evan Peters or Doctor Strange, that it hasn't been yet. And it's someone who he's always wanted to work with. I'm calling it now. Al Pacino shows up in this show as some villain. I will lose my mind. Maybe Mephisto, maybe someone else. At this stage, who the hell knows what is going on anymore? Loving the show. Keep up the good work. Thanks for that, Craig. And listen, I have always been, when it comes to the Al Pacino thing, now I have never been willing to put money on that, but the Al Pacino thing has made sense. We've talked about this for weeks. Actually, we talked about it a little bit even before WandaVision Season 1 even started. Remember, going back a couple of years, Al Pacino said in an interview that basically I'm paraphrasing, he really liked what was going on in the MCU. And I think he was saying his grandkids really get a big kick out of it. And he would, I'm again paraphrasing, but he would kind of be into being into the MCU. I mean, when Al Pacino, one of the most celebrated actors of all time, says that, doesn't that pique, if you're Kevin Feige, doesn't that pique your ears a little bit? Now, whether that means he's going to be Mephisto or whether that means, hey, he knows how to play the devil, right? We were just talking about Devil's Advocate earlier today. He knows how to play the devil. That, or maybe he's Nightmare or whatever, but either way, I like the idea that Al Pacino may show up. I remember the first time Paul Bettany said that, an actor I've always wanted to work with. I mean, the first name that does come to mind because of what was said before is Al Pacino. Now, again, I'm not predicting that he will show up. I'm not saying if he does that he'd necessarily be Mephisto, but these are all things that make sense when you look at all the stuff that's happened beforehand. So we'll see, Craig. We'll see. I think you may be onto something. All right, next up. Garrett Couch writes, Monica / Wanda standoff. How could Darcy know such details about Wanda killing Vision and then having him die again? Very small details to get out. Whoa, Agnes or Agatha. Well, I mean, not really. Like we've talked about this before. I am sure Captain America gave a detailed report of exactly what went down. You know, after talking to all the other, they've, got a full picture of exactly what happened and probably gave full details and reports. Because of her connection to the whole Thor incidents, I'm not surprised that Darcy would know these things, that somehow, some way that gets filtered out. Maybe even the world knows about it. Remember, the world knows about Ultron. The world knows about the snapping and all that kind of stuff. The world knows about it. So this all may be public information. The story of what happened may very well be worldwide known. That might be public knowledge to everybody. So we haven't seen anything that suggests otherwise, so it very well could be. All right, next up. Dino Vader writes, 1 of 2. Greetings from Switzerland. Thank you, Dino Vader. Here's my theory for the end of this season. Whoever controls or influences Wanda and will kill Vision and the children. Wanda will then in anger expand the hex to the whole universe, so the multiverse is established to all coming Marvel movies and series. Well, I don't know that we see her expanding the thing to the whole universe, because then how does that explain Far From Home, Spider-Man Far From Home, which again takes place 7 months after the events of WandaVision. But what is a common theory, Dino, is that a lot of people here believe that somehow, some way, that this series will end with a fracture in the multiverse. But again, if we look forward to Spider-Man Far From Home, no such thing is mentioned. And that happened 7 months after the events of WandaVision. So I'm not sure. There's a lot of big question marks floating out there, Dino Vader. A lot of big question marks. Let's see which way they go with that. And listen, man, thank you so much for writing in from Switzerland. I don't often have people write in and say they're writing in from Switzerland. So thank you for that, man. Appreciate having you here. All right, next up. T-Edge1 writes, was the picture on the milk carton age 5 Billy / Tommy? Did you watch the after credit scene? Will Rambo keep her powers? I love this show. Well, Monica Rambeau is, of course, in the comic books, Photon, Spectrum, Captain Marvel. She's had a lot of monikers over the years. She will keep her powers. Of that, I have very little doubt. The milk carton, I don't know. I didn't get a good look at it. Nobody seems to recognize who was on it, but it's not uncommon for missing children to be on milk cartons. That's a normal thing, particularly at that time. And yes, I did watch the after credits. They didn't really make anything clear to me, though. It's just made more questions. So I honestly didn't think it was that big of a deal. I honestly, they could have not showed those mid-credit scene. It would have made a difference. Of all the MCU mid-credit scenes, I really don't think that one was all that special. But I was just happy to see a mid-credit scene. All right, next up, Mark Blazer writes, and they did not show who the aerospace guy is. Bravo, Marvel, ha. See, some people think that they think that Captain was the one who was loyal to Maria and to Monica. That was the engineer. I don't think that was the engineer. I'm not 100% convinced it wasn't, but I think they still haven't shown it. I think we will show, and I still think it's possible that it's Quentin Beck or Mysterio. I still think it's possible it's Reed Richards. I still think it's possible that it's Brashear or Blue Marvel. I'm still think there's a lot of possibilities still. Again, I'm not convinced there is, but I'm not convinced there isn't. So we'll see. All right, Ryan Holman writes, Agatha Harkness confirmed. I knew Agnes was involved from the start. Still wondering what her goal in all this is. I mean, that's the big question, right? What's the motivation here? Obviously, the shark feed on yo magic is a part of this, but to what ends? To what ends? I mean, what's always been clear is that Agnes was different from all the other people in Westview. There was something different about Agnes. I didn't think it was necessarily her being Agatha Harkness because I thought there was too much evidence and that made it too obvious. Turns out I was wrong. She is. But now, okay, then what's the role? What's the purpose? What's the end game here? Is it her end game or is it somebody she's working for's end game? Well, I don't know. But these are the questions, Ryland. These are the questions. All right. Next up. Ryland also writes, Monica got her powers. Loved that she stood her ground to Wanda. I think she will help in whatever big battle is to come. Yeah, I think they manifested her powers for a reason. So I think you're right. Also a funny letdown on the aerospace engineer. Not necessarily. It was still a good story. And I don't think that was the aerospace engineer. At least I'm not sure about that. We'll see. Ryland also writes, for me, what really confirmed evil Agnes was Tommy. Safe to assume she is the one inside people's heads. I don't think so. Wonder what she did to the twins. I do wonder what she did to the twins. But remember, Herb, remember in the Agnes musical number? Herb was out there doing his thing. He's already under Wanda's mind control. And then she steps up and touches him to do something else. And remember, Wanda has already kind of admitted that she is doing it. Remember, she looked at Pietro, she says, so you don't think what I'm doing here is wrong? So she kind of admitted it. So I am not convinced that it's not still Wanda that's doing all of this. And instead it's, what we've got here is Agatha who has injected herself into it and is kind of now influencing and manipulating Wanda a bit and taking advantage of the situation. Again, going back to the last question, to what end? I'm not sure yet. And I think it's going to have something to do with whoever else Agatha is connected with. All right. Next up, we've got Ryan once again. Oops, not Tommy, Billy. We understood what he's saying. I like it here. You're quiet. I like that line. I thought that was really good. Next up, Jaden Coleman writes, hey, John and Ann. Do you think some fans' disappointment in the aerospace engineer this episode is a good lesson in managing expectations? Absolutely. Although, I'm still not convinced we've met the engineer yet. But yes, listen, this is what we as fans do. We do this. We get overexcited and we hype. Oh, Lindro just sent in this, you are amazing super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Lindro. I appreciate that, man. We get super hyped. We find the smallest things to attach onto. We build huge theories around them. This is what we do. And it's fun. It's fun to do that. But as we're doing it, we got to realize this is fun to speculate and guess and dream about it. But if they don't, let's not get so attached to it that if they do something else, if they didn't do what we were expecting them to do, that we suddenly get disappointed. And so, Jaden, yeah, I think that's a pretty good thing. And I'm as bad as it is anybody. So yeah, I think you're right about that. All right. Always Sketchy writes, The glitching inside the hex reminds me an awful lot of the glitching in Into the Spider-Verse. Just a coincidence? I think just a coincidence, yes. I think just a coincidence. Plus, the glitching in Into the Spider-Verse was a lot more chaotic and like different things were happening. This was just this table turns into a different type of table, right? Whereas in Into the Spider-Verse, it was like a stop sign, has half of a building sticking out of it, has a foot coming out of the other side, right? This was just the remote control of the game. The game controller turns into a different type of controller. So I think it is different. And I think it has more to do with Wanda having her power stretched a little bit too thin right now. All right. Manny Garcia writes, interviewer didn't sound like Agnes. Who was it? That's a good question. I even played that part back to see, do I recognize the voice? And I didn't recognize the voice, but yeah. My friend Jonathan Green, who's supposed to be coming over here in a couple of hours, sends in a keep it up super badge. Thank you, Jonathan. Don't think that lets you off the hook for the $200 you owe me. And if you don't remember that you owe me $200, Green, then that's just because you have a bad memory. Take my word for it. You owe me $200. Just believe that. All right. Anyway, let's keep, where are we? Yeah. So I don't know who it was. I even played it back to try to figure out who it was myself, and I did not know. I could not tell. All right. Ryan Holman writes, also, if this episode does not confirm to people that dude is not Quicksilver, Wanda literally said it. Plus, he's working with Agnes. If I was right about Agnes, I feel more certain that I'm right about this. Okay, so here's the thing, Ryland, though. Here's the thing. You know I have believed this whole time that that's not really Quicksilver. But Wanda actually saying that's not Quicksilver. Vision actually saying that Quicksilver's an imposter makes me wonder if he really is Quicksilver. I just so believe there could be some reverse psychology here going, because it's like when Monica at the end of episode 4 confirmed that it's all Wanda. Remember? Monica wakes up. It's Wanda. It's all Wanda. That was Kevin Feige playing with us. That was Kevin Feige, doing some reverse psychology on us. Because now we know maybe it was still a lot Wanda, but it wasn't all Wanda. It wasn't all Wanda. There was other things in play. So just because Wanda says that Pietro is fake, and just because Vision says that Pietro is fake, doesn't necessarily mean Pietro is fake. And listen, I want to believe that because that's been my theory the whole time. When all of you were calling me crazy, when I said right from the moment he showed up at Wanda's door, I said, that's not the real Quicksilver. That's not Quicksilver. That's not Quicksilver. And everybody said I was crazy. So obviously, I want to believe that it's not Quicksilver. But I'm telling you, Rylan, Wanda saying it's not Quicksilver doesn't mean anything. And Vision saying it's not actually Quicksilver doesn't mean anything. If anything, it makes me even more suspicious. It makes me more suspicious. But we will see. Jetfire sends in a super chat badge. Thank you, Jetfire. Appreciate that, man. Okay. The Hummingbird says something pretty smart in the live chat. The Hummingbird is saying, you can be right and still be crazy. That's true. All right. Ryan Holman also writes, also, I think next week's episode will be partial, if not full flashback. Yeah, I've been saying that myself. I'm not so sure about that anymore. But prior to last night's episode, I was pretty certain, I felt pretty certain that episode 8 would be a flashback episode and fill in a lot of the gaps. But seeing where this episode ends, now I'm not, I still suspect it's going to be a flashback episode, but I'm not 100% sure. Ian Wendu writes, Agatha had to put on a facade to be convincing to Vision. Why would the bad guy who's trying to be subtle not play along? I'm not quite sure what we're talking about, Ian. I mean, obviously, when Vision was talking to Wanda when she was in her car, but why would the bad guy who's trying to be subtle not play along? Are we talking about somebody else, or are we still talking about Agnes there? Because, yeah, I mean, clearly, yes, that was her playing along. And a lot of you guys saw through that, because how come nobody else who's frozen can speak, but Agnes can? You guys called it. You called it. So anyway, yeah, but I'm not quite sure, Ian Wendu, if you're talking about somebody else or we're still talking about the Agnes situation. All right, Ben Rayner writes, Great episode. I guess everyone was right about Agnes being Agatha. Who was that guy in the mid-credits? Is that Pietro? Oh, yeah, that was Pietro, or at least faux Pietro. Thanks for the show, John. Yeah, that was Pietro showing up. Snoopers be snooping, or Snooper's gonna snoop, whatever the exact phrase was that he used. Again, not a great mid-credit scene. It didn't really open up anything or raise any more questions. We still had the same questions, didn't answer anything, but I was happy that for the first time, because every single damn episode, Ben, I have sat and waited through I've sat and waited through all the credits, trying to see if there's going to be a post-credit scene, and there never was, and now there has. Let me ask you guys in the live chat, quick yes or no. I'm going to make a prediction here. Tell me if yes, you think I'm right, or no, you think I'm wrong. Now that we've had one post-credit scene, I think both of the final two episodes, episodes 8 and 9, will have post-credit scenes. That's my call. Do you guys agree with that? Yes or no? And got almost, it looks like 80% yeses. There are a couple of no's thrown in there, but an awful lot of yeses. Lisa, Greg, Rick, Brandon, Matthew, XT, Sink, Bill, Jessica, yeah, most of you guys are all saying yes. Okay, yeah, so I believe now that we've had that first one, I think there's no reason not to do it. They kept us waiting. Now they've opened the floodgates. We've got it. So I think episode 8 and episode 9 will both have post-credit scenes. Obviously, episode 8 to lead us into 9, and then episode 9 to lead us into whatever's going to come next, right? So we'll see. All right, Ian Wendu writes, was that Pietro at the end? He might be Nicholas Scratch, who is Agatha's son. That's one of the theories, that this faux Pietro might actually either be Mephisto, but the other theory out there is that it's Nicholas Scratch, who is Agatha's son, in the comic books at least. So that's a possibility. That is a possibility. And Chris Kim sends in a super chat badge saying, keep it up. Thank you, Nicholas Kim. I appreciate that. Let's see. Next up, we got Manny Garcia, who writes, that stork is still suspect, though. I don't know. I have always thought the stork was nothing. And I think the stork is, again, just the fact that it popped up and disappeared again. So I really think the stork is nothing. Now watch this. We're going to find out at the end that the stork is actually Galactus or something stupid like. You heard it here first, guys. You heard it here first. Calling it. Big scoop. The stork is Galactus. That's what we're going to find out. All right. Next up. Where are we at? Just Dank writes, they talk so highly of Wanda, saying she could almost kill Thanos, but not strong enough to realize Agatha is controlling her. Well, listen, there's a difference between pure power and somebody's ability to be deceptive. Like, I don't care how strong the Incredible Hulk is. If there was an invisible character, like if Sue Storm decided to be invisible in front of him, Hulk couldn't see her. I mean, maybe there's tricks he could pull, but it doesn't matter how strong or powerful he is. If somebody's got a particular power that plays to an edge or a weakness that character has, that doesn't diminish how powerful that character is. It's just that there happens to be a thing that can play on that character's particular maybe lack of super strength on that one area. So I don't think there's anything. Yeah, I don't think there's anything to that. I honestly think it's perfectly. I don't see anything inconsistent about that, Jess, to be honest with you. All right, next up, Rylan Holman writes, Hayward isn't going to like Monica even more now that she has powers. True. Bud better not get comfy in the director's chair. He's shady and his intentions are evil. Well, I'm not convinced his intentions are evil, but I'll tell you what, though. I really did think that because he's one of the few people who didn't get involved in the Hex, and because Monica and Jimmy both got away from the Hex, I really thought we were going to see the three of them working together begrudgingly. I thought we were going to see the three of them, well, I mean, we're here, and the problem's gotten worse, so might as well work together. I mean, that's what I kind of thought was going to happen, but it didn't. Now I don't know where they're going to go. But when Hayward says in this episode, get ready to go in, or something along those lines, what did he mean by that? Are they about to launch a full-scale assault? Did he make an army of Sentinels from the research they had done on Vision's body? I'm pulling theories out of my ass here. I have no idea, but I mean, there's a lot of strange stuff going on there. All right. Taki75 writes, not to toot my own horn, but I suspected the aerospace engineer was a red herring. I mean, everything in this show could be a red herring. Also, the flying Agatha's curtains is another Mephisto Easter egg. Yeah, there's a lot of people saying that. But again, let me just throw it there one more time, just to be safe here, that just because they didn't come out and say, behold, our aerospace engineer, doesn't mean that we've met them yet. It could still be an outstanding point. Remember, Jimmy is still out there. Jimmy is still there with everybody else. He's not inside the Hex. I think there's a possibility Jimmy may meet this engineer. I don't know that. I'm purely guessing, but we will see. We will see. All right. Next up, we've got Ian Nguyendu writes, Agatha is that person you were talking about, the one manipulating Wanda subtly for her own benefit to steal her magic. Yeah, now listen, I didn't think it was going to be Agatha. Straight up, I didn't think it was going to be Agatha. But I have, my theory, you guys know, has been that Wanda is still primarily the person doing this stuff, but there is another force at play. There's another player on the field here that is manipulating her, kind of like a little devil on the shoulder, and maybe, like the Shark Yo Magic commercial implies, is maybe siphoning off her power as they're doing it. I didn't think it was Agatha, but it looks like it's Agatha. And who is she siphoning that power for? Is it going to be Nightmare? Is it going to be Mephisto? Is it going to be another player that we're not considering yet? Maybe it's going to be, I don't know. Now, I'm not going to say that last theory. I'll keep that one to myself. But a lot of potential there. All right. Leo Liang writes, justice for Sparky. And by the way, I killed the dog. Still my new favorite line in the whole damn show, Leo. All right. Mr. 47 writes, I feel like even if I didn't suspect Agnes, I'd still feel underwhelmed by this reveal. I'm excited to see what's next, at least. Let's wait. And again, I just want to encourage everybody. Don't base your enjoyment on a show of what's the big reveal. Base it on, did they tell a good story? You know, did they tell a good story? Did they give us interesting characters in dire situations and told a good narrative while they were doing it? Base it on that. Not, well, if Spider-Man doesn't show up, then it wasn't any good. You know, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, Mr. 47. I know that's not what you're saying, but I'm just saying I see a lot of people out there on Twitter and on social media like, well, that was a waste of time because the Reed Richards didn't show up. So this, like, come on. That's not what makes this show good or not. If this show isn't good without a Reed Richards appearance, then it's just not a good show with a Reed Richards appearance. You know, did I just say Reed Richards? Anyway, if it's not good there, if it's not good without it, then it's not good with it. And I just think they're doing good stuff. But hey, listen, but even Anne herself didn't love this episode. Like, she liked it, but it's like her second least favorite episode. It's her second least favorite. I thought it was great. I personally thought the episode was great, though. That's just me. All right. Mark Blazer writes, I guess no more X-Men / Fantastic Four cameo for this show. It's magic versus magic. Probably Doctor Strange shows up to save Wanda. What's your over-under on this? I'll go 25%. 25% the Doctor Strange shows up. So I still clearly think 25% is a pretty high number. But I still think it's unlikely. I just don't see anything exciting about a Doctor Strange appearance. Doctor Strange is already in the MCU. He's in it all the time. Woohoo! He pops up in another MCU show. I just don't see how that would be a big deal. But, I mean, we know this story ties in with Doctor Strange too later on. So there are connecting dots, so I will go as high as 25%. All right, next up, Taki75 writes, Nexus ad means Wanda opens multiverse at the end. Not necessarily, but if the Nexus to all realities is in this show, I mean, it just blows the doors open on what is possible. I mean, there's no such thing as, but there's no discussion anymore about what's possible because everything is possible. There is nothing. If the Nexus of all realities is at play in this show, if that's what they're saying, and it may or may not be, but if it is, I mean, literally, saying that Darth Vader shows up isn't all that ridiculous. Saying that John Wick shows up is not all that ridiculous. I mean, like, seriously, If the nexus of all realities is actually at play here, nothing you can say is off the table. Nothing you can say is off the table. The Starship Enterprise could come flying into Westview. That's not impossible with the nexus of all realities. I mean, really, like it's anything goes. Anything goes if that's what they're doing. So we'll see. We'll see what that really means. All right. Benny95 writes, okay, 1, you killed Sparky, you son of a bitch. John Wick's coming for you. Number 2, everybody wants to throw in the John Wick thing. Number 2, that evil laugh was so cringe. Oh, I don't know, man. I thought the laugh was great. I thought she did great at that. Number 3, so much for the aerospace engineer, Marvel. Well, not necessarily. Again, I said before, not necessarily. Everybody jumped. Look, have we not learned our lesson? Don't jump to conclusions about anything. Don't jump to conclusions about anything. And don't assume that just because it didn't happen in episode 7, that we're not going to get this aerospace engineer in episode 8. I'm not convinced there is. I'm not telling you there is. I'm just saying, let's not jump to conclusions. All right. Ian Nguyen writes, Agatha probably wanted to test Wanda's powers so that she could prepare to steal it. Everything she did was to push Wanda to do something bigger. I don't think that's a far-fetched thing to say. That's a possibility. Again, I think a lot of this was Monica's on Wanda's own volition. But yeah, I think there are times we saw her pushing the limits and kind of edging. Like even right back to the original episodes when she's trying to get her to use her powers to whip something together for dinner. Even there, we're seeing that. So you could be onto something there, Ian. All right, next up. Arthur Smith writes, was that the Darkhold in Agatha's basement? No, it's not. If so, do you think this is a connection to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Could mean the return of Agent Coulson to the MCU. So all that is a big no. Once again, if you weren't here at the beginning of it, if you go online and just search for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Darkhold, you'll find an image of the Darkhold. This image is an image from last night's episode. These are 2 clearly different books. So no, this is not the Darkhold. And if they say this is the Darkhold, then that's Kevin Smith kind of giving double middle fingers to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and saying, yeah, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't real and it doesn't exist. This is the real Darkhold. But I think it's pretty clear. This is not, when you look at pictures from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and this is not the Darkhold. At least not the one they used in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that's what we know for sure. All right. Next up, where are we? Okay. Always Sketchy writes, 1 of 2. Are the townies who are, by the way, guys, please don't just use single letters. Please write the word "are." That would help me out a lot. Are the townies who are in stasis having a night terror where they can't move or scream, feeding nightmares power? One was weeping in episode 6. Could that be Nightmare's endgame? Get the whole world trapped in night terrors / nightmare universe so he can feed. I mean, listen, again, I would have said absolutely not before. But after that Shark Yo Magic commercial, anything's on the table. Now, that being said, what my thought is right now, and I think a lot of you guys think this too, is that the people who are frozen, I think Wanda can only actively control so many people at once. And then those she can't have control over, they're just frozen. I think. I don't know, but I think. I think that's what's going on here. But again, after that Shark commercial, listen, absolutely Nightmare becomes a bigger possibility, and that very well could be it. Although with that shake, I think more of the end game has to do with that book. I keep on bringing up this book. I have a feeling that whatever Agatha's end game or the end game of whoever she's working with, I think their particular end game has to do with this book. They showed it the way it is, and they showed the power on it and all that kind of stuff the way it was, and they focused and put the camera right on it for a reason. And I think that reason will become evident in the next couple of episodes. All right, next up. Jaden Coleman writes, do you think that Marvel expected WandaVision to be this big of a hit? No, I don't think they expected it to be this big, to the point that it's crashing the Disney Plus servers. Or do you think it's exceeded their expectations? I never would guessed I'd be so into a sitcom starring 2 comic book characters. Well, it's evolving out of being a sitcom, right? Listen, it's Marvel. So they know it's going to be big, right? They know it's going to be big. Did they know it was going to be this big? I don't think so. I really don't think that they were expecting it to be. I think this has exceeded their expectations. I don't think they were expecting it to be the number one show in the world. I don't think they expected its numbers to grow this big from first episode to seventh episode. I mean, they expected success and they expected it to be big, but I don't think they expected it to be this big. I think that part's a bit of a surprise to them. I think at any rate, Jaden. All right, next up. Rena Senorita writes, NGL, I was a little underwhelmed in this episode. Highlight was Monica getting her powers. Welcome to the MCU Photon. The engineer reveal was a letdown. Again, going back to it again, don't count on it. Don't count on it. And by the way, I don't know that she's going to go by the moniker Photon. I mean, that was her mom's nickname. So maybe she'll want it to go to honor her mom, but I think she's going to go by Spectrum. I think she's going now. She's had several monikers in the comic books. Spectrum was one of them. Photon was one of them. But I don't think she's going to take her mom's nickname. I think she's going to go by Spectrum. But maybe it'll be Photon. We'll see. And again, I still think there's a chance we're going to find out who this engineer was. Mandy Garcia writes, Darcy conveniently knowing every MCU detail. But tell me, seriously, why would we assume that that's not worldwide knowledge? The events of the most pivotal event in human history, the disappearance of half of life on the planet, and then its subsequent coming back. I think that is something that would become worldwide common knowledge. I think that is something that would become worldwide common knowledge. Everybody would know. Everybody would know. I don't think there's any reason to believe that the Avengers, like when half the world's population is gone, you'll never convince me that Captain America, like maybe Thunderbolt Ross wouldn't have wanted this, but it doesn't matter. You can never convince me that Captain America wasn't going to tell the world, that Captain America didn't feel that the world deserved to know what happened. Why did they lose their mothers and their fathers and their brothers and their sisters and their wives and their husbands and their children and their best friends? Why did they lose them all? You will never convince me that Captain America wasn't going to tell the world exactly what happened so they can know. He would have. So I have yet to see anything that really, and by the way, we know from Endgame, the beginning of Endgame, that the world knows at least the general thing of what happened, right? Captain America is in that support group and saying, hey, and if not, then Thanos should have killed the rest of us too. Like, so the world knows about Thanos and the snap and all that kind of stuff. I don't see why they wouldn't know about the details of it. It would have been the story that everybody would want to know. So yeah, I don't think it's just a Darcy thing, Manny. All right. Zara Francisco writes, next week, I predict that it will be too short. Holy shit. That's it. No, I want more. Yeah. Listen, I do think that the next two episodes will be longer. Or maybe they'll pull this bullshit on us again and it'll be at like 32 minutes and we'll be, what the hell? Come on, Marvel. I don't know. We'll see. But I think the next episode will be minimum 45 minutes. I don't know that. I have no insider information, but I think the next episode will be a minimum 45 minutes. And I think the finale will probably be the longest one yet. But that's my guess, just a guess. All right. Arena Senorita writes, 1 of 3. Did you catch the subtitles when Wanda was in the kitchen making breakfast? Yeah, not a thing weighing on your conscience. Yeah, it's like I was listening for it, but I couldn't hear it. I was reading it on the subtitles, but I couldn't actually hear it. It was weird. It said, not a thing weighing heavy on your conscience. I hope your little ghosts arrived home safe last night. It's always such a treat to see those creepy kiddos out and about once a year. Later on, we'll hear some tips on how to resist the temptation of all that leftover candy or just eat it all. Seems too creepy to me to just be news broadcasts in the background. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, Rena, when you think about it, it was the day after Halloween, right? It was, in fact, the day after Halloween. So what they were saying does make complete sense. It would be what was said on there. The thing about me, Rena, and I don't know if this happened to the rest of you at all, because I did have the subtitles on. But the subtitles were coming up, and I'm like, what? And I'm listening, like, I don't hear anything being said. I don't know if any of you had that experience too. Like, I saw the subtitles, but I did not hear that actually being said on the radio. It was weird for me. But at any rate, yeah, I didn't take it as being any kind of creepy because, again, that's kind of what they would say in the day after Halloween. But maybe there is more to it, Rena. Maybe there is more to it. And if there is, we will find out shortly. Maybe you just caught something that I didn't. So let's keep our eyes on that. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Rena. All right, Mary writes, didn't I tell you all yesterday that Vision would recognize and wake up Darcy? Yep. I mean, the only reason I didn't think so at first is because I didn't realize that he actually saw Darcy when he made it outside of the hex. And then when you guys said, no, they did see each other there. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah. Then that kind of makes sense. So, yep, you called it, Mary. You were right about that. And they certainly did. And I'm glad they did. And actually, here's a question. When Vision sees Darcy, why did he wait to wake her up? Like, he knows she's going to be in the trance. So why all the small talk jibber jabber before going, oh, okay, well, I guess I got to wake you. Like, wouldn't a Vision just walked right up to her? Okay, tell me what's going on here. Like, isn't that what would happen? Anyway, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. All right. Next up, we got Inwendu, who writes, Wanda doesn't conjure magic because she is genetically magic. So Agatha can't steal her magic per se, but she could siphon it off with a spell. Well, I mean, Ian, are we trying to apply some kind of rules to something that is completely fictional? What? I don't know. Is that how the rules of magic works? Genetically magic versus conjuring magic? Is that how the rules of magic work? I mean, I don't know. But I think, look, I don't think it has anything to do with this type of magic or that type of magic. I wouldn't even call what Wanda does as magic. That was a scientific experiment that was done on her that gave her the powers, but maybe that they're going to call that magic or whatever. I'm not sure. But yeah, I do think she is trying to siphon off her power. But for what? Is it for the book? Is it for her master? Is it for herself? Lots of questions there, Ian. Still lots of questions. All right, next up. Little Ray writes, and I killed Sparky too. Instant heat. Oh, yeah, you want everybody to hate the character? Say, I killed the dog. But we all knew Agnes killed the dog. I just didn't know why Agnes killed the dog. Still don't know why Agnes killed the dog. Always Sketchy writes, do you think the commercial for this episode confirms the hex is being used to create the Nexus and will be an intersection of all realities? No. First of all, I'm not even sure that the commercial confirms that the Nexus is a part of the story. It could just be an Easter egg. However, if the Nexus is at play here, I don't think the hex created the Nexus. The Nexus is beyond... When you understand the Nexus in the comic books, the Nexus is beyond Wanda's abilities in the MCU, is beyond her abilities to create. So my guess is, and this is purely a whimsical guess, is that if the Nexus of all realities is a part of this story, as hinted and suggested in that commercial, my feeling is it was there all along. I don't think the hex created it. But who knows? Since it's never really been a part of the MCU story before, we don't know what the rules of the Nexus of all realities would be in the MCU. We know what it is in the comics, but that's irrelevant. We don't know what they would say the dynamics of it are in the real MCU, so we would have to wait and see. All right, Jaden Coleman writes, I think Major Goodner is Monica's Skrull friend who then connect her to Fury's base in space. This could potentially tie into Secret Invasion as well. Any thoughts? I don't think so. Like, anything Secret Invasion wise is going to be very, 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 very different from the comic books, because the Skrulls right now are our allies. I thought the one really good theory I heard before was that this engineer would have been Talos's daughter, right? Because they would have grown up as friends. So that was an interesting thing too. I don't think she is a Skrull. It's because it sounds like this lady who's been a lifelong time thing, but I still don't think she was the engineer. I still don't think this Goodner was the engineer. I could be wrong. I'm not convinced that I'm right, not at all, but I'm just not convinced that she was either. So we'll see. All right, next up. Rihanna writes, what's up with the post-credit scene? Does this episode confirm Pietro is Agatha's son, Nicholas Scratch, or Nightmare jumping into people's bodies? No, no, it confirms nothing. Let's be clear about that. That post-credit scene confirmed nothing. The only thing it confirmed was that Monica found the entrance to Agatha's basement, and it confirmed that whoever this Quicksilver is still there. That's all it confirmed. Now, does it open up the possibility that it could be Agatha's son? Sure, yeah. Does it keep open the possibility that he could actually be Mephisto? Sure, yeah. Does it keep the possibility open that maybe it really is Quicksilver? Sure, yeah. But it doesn't confirm any of those things. Hasn't confirmed any of those things. But these are all things that are still on the table, and we got 2 episodes left, Rena, to find out where they're going with it. All right, Kelbo Bruss writes, John, love the show. Thank you so much. You, Rob, and Ann are amazing. Oh, thank you so much. It's always nice when somebody wants to write something in just to say something nice. Thank you, man. David Morgan Jr. writes, hey, John and Ann, who's not here yet. Just wanted to say thanks for all the hard work, since by now 10 others would have said the same thing as me, always, just differently. Well, no, not really, David, but thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for, letting me be a part of a community where we get together. Getting tongue-tied here. Thank you guys for giving me a community that I get together with every week to talk about this stuff. It's awfully a lot of fun. You can tell my voice is starting to go here. Anyway, Ryan Lohner writes, they really thought no one would see the Agatha reveal coming, didn't they? I really cringed at the song bragging that it was a huge surprise. Well, I mean, look, 2 things, Ryan. 2 things to keep in mind. Number 1, there were a lot of people, not necessarily the majority, but there were a lot of people like me who didn't think it was Agatha. Those of us are out there. The other thing you got to understand is this, Ryan. I would venture this guess. Less than 5% of the people who watch WandaVision have ever heard of Agatha Harkness. Oh, I'll guarantee that. Yeah, there's like 5% of the audience who are well-versed in the comic lore and who kind of realized and identified from the brooch and the name and all that kind of stuff that, hey, that could be Agatha Harkness. But I'm telling you, like 95% of the people who watch the show have never heard of Agatha Harkness. Never heard of them. And most people who watch the show aren't connected to YouTube channels like mine and then want to get into it and watch post shows and hear spoiler reviews and blah, blah. So I am telling you right now, a lot of people watched that show last night. Dare I say the majority of people who were watching that show, this episode of that show, when they said, I'm Agatha Harkness, that was the first time they've ever heard that name. I guarantee you the majority of people watching the show, when she introduced herself as Agatha Harkness, for the majority of people watching, that was the first time they ever even heard the name. So yeah, Ryan, I will go out on a limb and say that, that was a big reveal to a lot of people last night. Maybe not to you, maybe not to a lot of the 4,000 people who are watching this live stream right now. Absolutely. But for the majority of the people who tuned in to watch, for them it was a surprise. All right. Let's see here. Next up, Crash Woodson writes, intro song equals The Office vibes. I completely agree. I mean, the show itself was very much Modern Family, but that intro scene very, very much felt like the intro credits very much felt like The Office. Absolutely, Crash Woodson. I'm with you on that 100%. All right. Anthony M.R. writes, I'm not trying to snobbish, but this is why I love having comic knowledge. Me and the other fans saw Agatha's reveal a mile away. We all know Pietro is an imposter. Good bet it's Nightmare. Well, some people are saying Nightmare. Some people are saying Mephisto. Some people are saying it's Scratch, Agatha's son. Some people still believe it is Quicksilver. I will say this, though, Anthony. People like me who are aware of who Agatha Harkness is, I thought they were making it so obvious that it was a sure thing she wasn't Agatha Harkness. Because, the name, the Agatha brooch, we talked about this for weeks, the brooch, the fact that she was like, they went so on the nose with her being in a witch costume. I thought, they're going too far. Obviously, it's not Agatha. What did I know? Turns out it was Agatha. But anyway, there's that. But now listen, Anthony, I'm with you. I'm with you on this whole Quicksilver thing. But I just don't know that we can be so sure anymore. Like, I haven't thought from moment one that Evan Peters was actually Quicksilver. I haven't believed that for 1 minute. But I don't know that we can be sure of anything anymore, right? Down is up is down, the whole thing, man. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, Anthony. Thanks for sharing, man. Kevin Adams writes, long suspected Agatha Harkness killed Sparky. I mean, I didn't think she was Agatha, but I said this last week, right? Agnes killed the dog. I mean, I just didn't know why she killed the dog. I still don't know why she killed the dog. Forget her taking the kids. Just killing the dog means she needs to be taken out. Maybe, but then again, was the dog even real? Right? She killed the dog, but was the dog even real? But yes, if this was the world of John Wick, man, the Baba Yaga would be coming for Agatha Harkness. You bet your ass the Baba Yaga would be coming for her. All right, David Humphrey writes, hey, John. This week's episode was great. Sitcom theme was definitely based on The Office / Modern Family. More Modern Family than The Office. Love the reveal for Agatha and her theme tune. I love the theme tune. Very Addams Family / Munsters. Is it next Friday already? Well, for me, Thursday. I know, right? I mean, that's the one thing. I wrote this on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, but like my life right now has become just one big countdown clock to the next episode of WandaVision. It's like after I watch the midnight I stay up to midnight, watch the episode, go to bed. Once I wake up on Friday morning, my whole life is like set the clock. Countdown to when the next episode of Wanda. That's my whole life right now. Is just counting down to the next episode of WandaVision. So I'm with you, man. Is it next? For me, it's Thursday at midnight. Is it next Thursday yet? That's all I'm thinking about. Is it next Thursday yet? All right. Ian St. Ammond writes, so when Norm says, make it stop, it was Agnes. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because remember, when Monica went into the Hex, when she was being debriefed about her time in the Hex, what did Monica say? I felt sadness and pain, but I also, I heard Wanda's voice in my head. Now, we might be tempted to say, well, that was actually Agnes mimicking Wanda's voice in her head, but I don't think so. I still think it's, I still think that's actually Wanda doing all that. Because remember too, Herb, when he was, during the Halloween episode, as he's dressed up as Frankenstein, he knows to ask Wanda, he's like, is there anything I can help you with, Wanda? Do you need something changed? Right? So I still think that is Wanda doing a lot of these things. I still think it's Wanda doing a lot of it. It's just that I think Agatha and whoever is working with her are just taking advantage of the situation, manipulating Wanda a bit, siphoning off her power. Because again, I think with that, if you go back to that whole Agatha intro music, Agatha, like that whole thing, it doesn't show her creating this problem. Like when we first see Agatha in it, she just flies into this thing that Wanda had created and started on her own. So I don't know. It's still a little bit up in the air, but we'll see where they're going with it. All right. McKeel writes, I love Agnes / Agatha. Therefore, I love this episode. I don't care if it was the obvious answer. It's a great character. Time to find out why now. But again, it wasn't obvious to me. I thought it was a big misdirect. I know a lot of people thought it was a big misdirect. And then most of the people who watch it never heard of Agatha Harkness, so they didn't even know where they were going with that. So, yeah, and by the way, I see some people chatting, talking about, there's a preview out for episode 8. It's fake. The preview that is out for episode 8 is fake. Just so everybody knows, it's fake. There will be an episode 8 thing coming, but it is fake. It is fake. And by the way, I just want to point something out too. Something I mentioned earlier, but obviously this person wasn't here. John Campea in the live chat is saying, Agnes is shown controlling Herb. John, do you even pay attention? Oh no, Mr. Campea? Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. Oh no, Mr. Campea, I should ask if you're paying attention. Because before Agnes comes up behind Herb, what's he doing? He is in the hex. He's in there already being controlled. And then Agatha comes up behind him. Like if we saw Herb outside of the hex and then saw Agnes do that thing to him, but what was he doing? He was already under Wanda's control. And then Agatha came in and did a little something extra on top of that. But anyway, just pay attention. You got to pay attention to these details, folks. You got to pay attention to these details. All right, next up. Where are we at? That was McKeel. Did I even read it? Oh yeah, I love this episode. Yeah. By the way, Catherine Hahn, I knew I was going to love this character the moment I found out Catherine Hahn was going to be in this show. I love this woman. I'm a low grade in a fan sort of way, be in love with Catherine Hahn. Catherine Hahn. Love her. All right. Ian St. Armand writes, hey, John, I think Agnes is working with Hayward. Oh, I don't think so. But the email in episode 5 maybe was from Hayward to Agnes. It was very official. That wasn't Dear Agatha. I mean, that was a very officially formatted email. I don't think it was meant for her, but you might be onto something. The email in episode 5 was maybe from Hayward to Agnes. They induced Wanda to steal Vision's body to retrieve him, but they lost control of her at some point. I don't know. Wanda so far has seemed to, Wanda at this point seems to be acknowledging what she has done. She seems to acknowledge what she has done. And by the way, everybody look, I was not roasting John Campea. I was not roasting him. I was just pointing out that yes, we saw Agatha control Herb, but you're forgetting that before she came in to control him, he was already under Wanda's control. He wasn't just like, oh my gosh, why am I in this hex? What's going on? Oh my goodness. No. He was already there playing the role of Herb, doing his thing. And then Agatha came in. So yeah, she touched him at that point, but he was already under Wanda's control. But that's not me. That's just me pointing something out. Pointing something out is not roasting somebody, folks. Give him a break. All right. Anyway. So yeah, with the email thing, it does seem to me that Wanda, at least the implied message seems to have been Wanda has been starting to acknowledge, yes, this is me. You don't think what I'm doing is wrong. When she's talking to the camera in the Modern Family verbiage, she's even saying things, things you do, create a false reality and blah, blah, blah. Like, she's acknowledging what she has done in all of this. So again, I always said that I think Wanda is mostly behind this, but that there is another force at play that's like the little devil sitting on somebody's shoulder. Remember the old Fred Flintstone cartoons? You got the little angel and the little devil. The angel's trying to say, do good things, and the devil's saying, no, let's be bad. And it's kind of like that influencing and manipulating. That's how I kind of see it. Could be wrong, but that's how I kind of see it. All right. Thank you for that, Ian. Next up, Steele Smith writes, so the aerospace engineer was no one, basically, all that time, and it was no one of importance. Again, I don't think we can come to that conclusion yet. It might end up being that, and if so, that was our fault for building that up, because the show never built it up. The show just said, we need to make something. Okay, I know an aerospace engineer who could make that. And then later, okay, let's go meet my guy in an hour. That's all they did. It was people like me And people like a lot of others and like a lot of other fans, we're the ones who held on to that and made a big deal out of it. But again, I'm still not convinced we're not still going to meet this engineer. I still think that might be in play. We'll find out. All right. The Great Bondi writes, all that power, and yet she was not able to help Ant-Man win the election in Pawnee. That's a Parks and Rec reference, excellent reference. And the other team only had Star-Lord. I call BS. They had Burt Macklin. Again, that's an inside joke for people who watch Parks and Rec. Of course, Catherine Hahn was in Parks and Rec, and Paul Rudd was there running for office. Anyway, you got to go see the episode. It was great. Excellent reference. Great call out to that Great Bondi. Well done. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, I'd love it if DC now cast Catherine Hahn as an apparent random civilian just for the hype of what villain is she going to be. Yeah, doesn't seem to fit Marvel's style, though. You know what I mean? I mean, I would get a kick out of that, too. But it just doesn't seem to be their style at this point. Like, hey, listen, Marvel has cast people in 2 different roles before, right? They're doing it right now with, what's the name of the girl from Crazy Rich Asians? And she played Minerva in Captain America and Captain Marvel, I mean. And now she's playing a different character in the Eternals. Do you guys, it's that Asian actress. Come on, guys, in the live chat, help me out here. What's the name of this actress? She was in Crazy Rich Asians. Then she was Gemma Chang. Thank you. Adnan. Thank you, Adnan. Gemma Chan. And then Michael, Richard, Jordan, all the rest of you guys putting in the name. Thank you. Yeah. By the way, oh my gosh. Like, even my wife is like, yeah. When we watch Crazy Rich Asians, my wife Anna's like, okay, that girl's all kind of hot. Gemma Chan is gorgeous. But she's playing 2 different characters in the MCU. Granted, they look completely different and you will never be able to tell they were the same actress, but still you had to play Minerva in one. Now she's going to be in the Eternals, right? So, maybe they could do it. Doesn't seem like likely, but maybe it's something that they do. All right. Julian Cambier writes, I killed Sparky too. Tony didn't die for this. I got like that. Tony didn't die for this. At least you're right, John. They did fill Agnes's gap this episode. They did. And still my new favorite line in all the show. Oh, and by the way, I killed Sparky too. I'm bad. I like that. I thought that was great. Thanks for that, Julian. All right. Frankie Gouge writes, 2 cliches. Occam's razor, simplest answer is usually the correct one. Next, WandaVision gives us what we need, not what we want. Both right on both counts. And listen, when you really sit down and think about it, Kevin Feige, I almost said Kevin Smith again. Kevin Feige has hit us with lefts and rights and mixed up his attack on us so much that now we are questioning everything. And I would propose that where we are right now, the showrunner and show creator, Jack, her and the director, Matt, and Kevin Feige, they have us right now exactly where they wanted us. By throwing out some things that were obvious, by throwing out some things that had to be interpreted, by throwing out some things that were over obvious, by letting us feel like we got some of our predictions right, ripping away some other predictions that we thought were going to happen, keeping us guessing, thought things that we sure was going to happen, didn't happen. And now here we are, a crying, miserable mess, not knowing which way is up, and we have no idea what to think of what's going to happen in the next 2 episodes. We can't take anything for granted anymore. I don't take for granted anymore that Evan Peters isn't the real Quicksilver. I still don't think he is, but I can't take that for granted anymore. I'm not so sure anymore. I'm not so sure about anything. And I think this is exactly where Jacques, where Matt, and where Kevin all wanted us to be. They wanted us to be in this like totally insecure, uncertain kind of position that we're all in right now. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So anyway, there we go. All right. Next up, Anthony M.R. writes, Paul Bettany confirms again that there is a cameo still coming and it's a guy he has wanted to work with. He also confirms some fan theories were correct, but he can't talk about Mephisto. Well, what is he supposed? I saw the thing about Mephisto, right? If he answers yes or no, then he's confirming or he's basically setting the record straight on something and he can't do that. So Mephisto comes up. What can he say? He can say nothing. If there is no Mephisto, he can't say a thing. If there is a Mephisto, he can't say a thing. So I wouldn't read anything into that. But even Paul Bettany doing that interview, that could be a massive misdirect. Listen. The girl who plays Monica, she did an interview and said, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, that I can't wait for everybody to see who the engineer is. I can't wait for everybody to find out who this engineer is, right? Well, if she wasn't misdirecting us, then we're still going to get this surprise engineer appearance because it hasn't happened yet. But if she was also in her interviews, was participating in misdirecting us as the audience, what's to say Paul Bettany isn't doing that too? Remember what I said just a minute ago? That the showrunner, the director, and Kevin Feige himself have us now in this position where we just can't take anything. We can't accept anything at face value anymore in this show. We have no idea where things are. That's where we're at. Because if we don't get this engineer turning up to be some kind of cameo, which still could happen, but if we don't, that means that the actress who plays Monica was actively participating in the misdirection, even in her publicity interviews. And if she's doing that, Paul Bettany could be doing it too. So we don't know what to believe anymore. And I think this is exactly where they've got us. This is exactly where they wanted us. This is exactly where they wanted us. All right. Anyway, next up, Double Crit writes, I feel like you fell victim to your own hype machine. Oh, I agree. I 100% agree with that. I said that earlier myself. There was no reason to expect the aerospace engineer to be important, let alone John Krasinski as Reed Richards. Oh, but I think, no, listen, that's so easy to say now, Double Crit. It's easy to say that now. But there was every reason in the world to believe that that was a possibility. And by the way, very few people, including me, not very many people said, oh, I'm telling you, it's going to be Reed Richards. Like, I never said that. I just said, hey, maybe unlikely. I don't think they're going to bring in Fantastic Four yet, but this is a possibility. And it was a possibility. I still think Adam Brashear or Blue Marvel was a possibility. When you look at the comic books, he dated Monica. He is an engineer. He is connected in the MCU, not a part of the X-Men universe. It was possible. I didn't say it was likely. I said it's probably not likely, but it was possible. These things were all possibilities. It's easy now in hindsight to look back and say, oh, that was never possible. Oh, no, it was. It was a possibility. And by the way, I contend it still is a possibility. It may not, but it's possible that they still are possibilities. I'm just saying. And on top of all that, this actress saying that she can't wait for people to meet the engineer, then of course. But that being said, you are also correct in your assessment that myself and many others fell victim to our own building up of the hype. Guilty. Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's what we do. It's what we as fans do. All right. My voice is starting to go a bit here. My voice is getting a little bit rough. Let's keep going here. Oh, that's because we're now at 3 hours. We've been doing this for 3 hours, guys. Let's keep going. Just Plain Steve writes, do you think the post-credits scene was Agnes using Quicksilver to challenge Monica, or he showed up on his own to help her? I honestly don't know. Like, because here's the thing. If this Quicksilver is, like many people here are theorizing, either Agatha Sun, Mephisto, Nightmare, whatever, then he's there to challenge Monica. If he's there on his own, it could be that he's some rando who has just had his mind controlled to convince him that he was Quicksilver, or maybe he is Quicksilver, or whatever. I mean, that is the big question regarding that's the big question regarding the show right now to me. Like, honestly, for me, and I'm not saying this is true for you, but for me, Like, how much of this is Wanda isn't the most important question to me right now. What is Agatha's endgame is not the most important question to me right now. These are important questions. For me personally, the most important question still revolves around Quicksilver. Or faux Quicksilver. You know, is he Mephisto? Is he some random Westview person? Is he actually Quicksilver? I mean, this is the one I am looking forward to the most, and I honestly don't know, man. I don't know. That post-credit scene didn't do anything to help the situation either, just plain Steve, but there's that. All right, guys, listen. We have now been going for 3 hours, and I told myself every hour and a half I was going to take a short break. And my voice is starting to get a little bit rough. You have to understand, I did a 2-hour show this morning, too. We've been going for 3 hours now. It's getting a little bit rough, but let's take a little bit of a break here for a couple of minutes. I'm going to refill the drink. Just take a few moments to recoup just a little bit. Don't go anywhere, guys. Keep talking amongst yourselves. Go use the bathroom yourself. Grab a drink. Grab a bite to eat. Go on in, and then we will be right back and try to carry on for a little bit while longer if we can. So don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you again for your patience and indulgence, I should say. I'm gonna let you guys know, I am going to only be able to go for a little while longer. My voice is starting to run out. I don't have a lot left in me here. So I'm going to get through as many more as I can. And then once I do not worry. Every single question and comment and observation that got sent in will be addressed in a video, probably in a companion video, either by myself or Robert Meyer Burnett. Every single one that got sent in will be addressed. So if you want to get in a question or comment to be in the follow-up video to this, you've got a few more minutes left to get one in. So go ahead and get those in while you can, and then we'll be moving on. And unfortunately, Anne is being held up. She is working right now. So Anne is not going to be able to get here in time by the time I'm out of steam. So, however, Anne sends her apologies, and she guarantees she will be very much on the next one, and will be absolutely on the next one. So let's keep right on rolling, shall we? Next one up is, I can't remember. No, I think we did answer Just Plain Steve. Okay, we got Just Plain Please. Next up, Marley Marr writes, hey, John and Ann, we were just talking about her. The commercial mentioned Nexus. Is that a cross-dimensional gateway? Is this a vital clue or lead-in for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness? See, it all depends. It all depends. I don't think we can just assume and take for granted that since it was mentioned in a commercial, then that means it's going to be in the show. I don't think we can make that assumption. But you can't just throw it out either. You can't just ignore it. Like, they mentioned the nexus of all realities. And when you understand what the nexus of all reality is, you got to understand that if they are saying it, it very well could be a part of the show. Maybe it's just an Easter egg. Maybe it's just a fun little thing. Maybe it's another misdirect. But you can't ignore that it could very well be a part of the show. And if it is a part of the show, who knows? Now, remember, what they call the multiverse is already a part of the MCU. It's not like they need something in WandaVision to happen to start the multiverse. Spider-Man in Far From Home, they already reference the multiverse. They've already talked about that being a part of their reality. But if the Nexus, I know I said this already, but if the Nexus is in here, if the Nexus of all realities is in this show, it literally blows the doors open for everything as possible. Darth Vader showing up is possible. John J. Rambo showing up is possible. Alf showing up is possible. Fucking E.T. showing up is possible. I mean, when you really understand what the Nexus represents, anything in this show becomes possible. Maybe not probable, but at least possible. So it's something we do have to keep our eyes open for. All right. Thanks a lot for that, Marley. Next up, we got Michael Mahoon writes, please stand by. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Seriously, Michael, I have grown to hate those 3 words. Please stand by. I have started to hate those 3 words because it means the show's over. It means the episode's over. So, I mean, yeah, I do not like those words, my friends. I do not like those words. All right, next up. Mike Goldberg writes, well, waking up at 3 a.m. wasn't as bad as I thought. Even with work at 7 a.m., dude, I don't know if I could do that, man. I don't know if I could do that. At least it's a Friday and I killed Sparky too. Well worth it. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? I want to say that if WandaVision was on at 3 a.m. where I live instead of midnight, I want to say that, no, I'm too responsible. I wouldn't stay up till 3 a.m. to start, which means I'm staying up till 3:30, almost 4 a.m. when I gotta get up at 5 or 6 in the morning. I'd like to say that responsible John Campea would be, nope, I would have to wait till the next day to watch it. But who am I kidding? The reality is I probably would stay up. I would probably still do it and stay up. So anyway, good on you, Mike Goldberg, for that. All right, next. Extant Crab writes, was that magic book something to do with Dormammu? I don't think so. I don't think that had anything to do with it. I mean, there was another, Caecilius got a different book, right? Because Caecilius did go after one of the books in the library that did have something to do with Dormammu. I don't think this is that same book, so this is probably having to do something with something totally different. I mean, it is in play. It is possible because Dormammu is something that other people have theorized could be a part of this show. I have not thought that Dormammu would be. You never know, though. So have to wait and see. But I think this is probably a completely different book than that. All right. Tashi Victor writes, crazy episode. Do you think Agatha takes out Nightmare or Mephisto possibilities? No, if anything, it introduces them even more, I think. Also, are those kids dead? Thanks for doing the post show every week. Well, thank you, Tashi, for being here and giving me a platform to do it. Okay, so first off, do I think Agatha being there means that Mephisto and Nightmare are out of the picture? No. If anything, I think Agatha being there increases the possibilities that it's either Nightmare or Mephisto. Like, I at one point in the show, I thought, nah, no Nightmare, no Mephisto. Then that damn shark commercial happened. And I said, well, maybe. I still don't think so, but maybe. And now Agatha is there, and clearly there's other stuff going on in there with the book and everything. I think it increases the chances of that. And as far as the kids, I don't think they're dead yet. I still don't think they make it out of the show. They could. They might. I still don't think they will. But yes, I'm still not even sure the kids are even real. But I don't think they're dead yet. I think they're still alive. Maybe they're in the television or something like that, but I don't think they're dead yet. We'll find out next episode, I'm sure. Tyler Yeats writes, what an awesome episode. Darcy and Vision were funny. Monica seems to get her powers, and that ending was creepy and insane. Can't wait for next week. Happy Friday. I'm with you. I love this episode. Yeah, we didn't get a big engineer reveal. Yeah, all that. But I thought it was a well-told episode. I thought the story was good. I thought it progressed and moved the episode forward. I don't understand people who are calling it a filler episode. It's like, if some big Marvel cameo doesn't happen, it's just a filler episode. It's like, what? No, I thought it was a very well-told episode. I liked it a lot, even if it crushed my Agatha Harkness theories. Even if it crushed my Agatha Harkness theories, I thought it was a great episode. All right, next up. Murray Reich writes, Agatha Harkness is now on John Wick's hit list after, I've told you, everybody's talking about John Wick now, is now on John Wick's hit list after killing Sparky. She become full-fledged Cruella. Yep. Also, that ending reveal music had a Munster or Adams TV feel. Yeah, a lot of other people were mentioning that same thing, Murray, and I thought that was great because they took it right back to the 50s and then kind of gave the theme music from that point on and then showed it progress through the different decades. And the music was great. The music was great. I'm not going to lie. I rewound and watched the music part again. I thought the music part was a lot of fun. So anyway, that was me. Okay, next up. Zach Houston writes, as I geek, I don't like to geek shame, but damn y'all out-geeked yourselves with the aerospace engineer. Have you met Major Goodman, a.k.a. my guy, LMAO? Again, maybe. It is what we do, but I am still not convinced that was her guy. I'm still not convinced of that. I'm not convinced it wasn't, but I'm not convinced that was her guy. Now, maybe the actress was faking us all out when she said, I can't wait for the audience to meet who the engineer is, but I think that still leaves the door open as a possibility. Don't take anything for granted. I have taken several things for granted in this show, and I'm learning. Don't take anything for granted in this show. We'll see where it goes. Let's see. Let me just address this one thing here. Baby Butler is saying in the live chat, John keeps saying that about the kids, but they are part of the Young Avengers. Comic books are not the MCU. Just remember that. Comic books are not the MCU. They are two different things. The comics are the comics. The MCU is the MCU. That doesn't mean they can't have similarities, but we've seen 1,000 times already in the MCU that they do things completely different than the comics. Civil War, nothing like the Civil War comic story. Days of Future Past, nothing like the Days of Future Past comic story. Skrulls, nothing like the Skrulls that are in the comics. So yeah, I know that, Wiccan and Speed, Young Avengers, and all the different things. Yeah, I get that, but that's the comics. This is the MCU. And maybe they'll be the same, but we know for sure that we should not assume that they'll be the same because they very rarely are the same. They are very rarely the same. But I'm just saying. All right. Next up. Abs626 writes, first, the WandaVision episode 2 theme song getting stuck in my head. I know, the one that was kind of like, yeah. Now, it was Agatha all along. Marvel is releasing straight bops. Listen, at some point, I fully expect on iTunes or something, Disney will release a WandaVision soundtrack, right? Like they have to, don't they? They got to give us a WandaVision soundtrack, and I will buy the hell out of that. I will absolutely buy the hell out of that. All right, next up, Preston Bell writes, so Agatha is behind it all. I think we all knew she was up to something. Is she responsible for those glitches around the house? I don't think so. For those people who are still or on autopilot creating what? Is she responsible for those glitches around the house? For those people who are still on autopilot and creating, okay, is she responsible for all those things? I don't think she's responsible for the glitches. Again, I think that has more to do with the fact that Wanda expanded the hex and somebody else has been feeding on her power. I think my guess is that that's what's causing the glitches. I don't think she created Pietro, but she may have. And I still think Wanda is responsible for all the people who are on autopilot. I still think Wanda is responsible for all of that. I think Agatha just steps in and takes control of certain ones of them. I mean, look, Wanda's in control of everything in the hex. And I think, remember, according to that opening song for Agatha, if you take it literally, Agatha just comes into it after Wanda already created it all. Now, maybe that opening scene, maybe that opening theme of Agatha, it's all Agatha thing, maybe that wasn't showing us the whole story. But if we go by what we saw, all right, and there could be more to it, but if we go by what we saw, what did we see? We saw Agatha arriving when the hex already existed, right? So that means Wanda's already controlling everybody inside the hex, but Agatha can come in and overtake that on occasion, like we saw her do with Herb, right? So I don't know, man. We'll see. Like, what is the scope of all this? We don't know. And I don't have the answers. I'm saying it as if I'm sounding like I know all the answers. I'm not sure I know all the answers either. None of us do. But we will find out more in episode 8. We'll definitely find out more in episode 8. All right, next up. Murray Reich writes, I noticed the box milk had a children missing sign on it. Interesting. Also, if Monica was able to go in last time, then why use the machine? Okay, two things. Missing children on milk boxes was a totally common thing. That was a very, very common thing. But the second thing is, remember, the first time Monica, and even Agent Franklin for that matter, the reason Monica and Agent Franklin, the beekeeper, had no problems going in before, remember, when Wanda came out after they shot the missile at her, when she went back in, she fortified the barrier. Remember that? She did this whole thing and it all turned red and all that kind of stuff. Now she was keeping people out. Before that, anybody could go walking in. They were flying drones in. They were doing all that. People, Monica could just touch it, get sucked in. Agent Franklin could crawl in. Drones could fly in. It was easy, no problem. But after they pissed off Wanda, she changed it. And now that thing was keeping people out. So that's why it was such a big deal for Monica trying to force her way back in. So that's why it was a big deal there. At least I think. I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's what it seems to suggest. All right. Next up, Frankie Gouge writes, Mass Effect reference, Monica got a Mako, and it worked out about as well as a Mako. I'm assuming that's the name of a vehicle in Mass Effect. I'm not sure. I know my buddy Dennis plays Mass Effect a lot. I haven't played Mass Effect. So that one's going over my head a little bit. No big surprise. All right, thanks for that, Frankie. Next up, Frankie also writes, 122822, which is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s designation for the planetary event known as the Pulse, in the video game Universe featuring Reed Richards. I'm not quite sure what we're talking about, Frankie, but I'm sure people who are watching do, and that one, 122822, which is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s designation for the planetary event known as the Pulse, in the video game universe, featuring Reed Richards. I'm not quite sure which video game we're talking about. Anyway, but I'm sure others do. Thanks for putting that in, Frankie. Next up, Preston Bell writes, also, I don't understand why the rover wasn't able to get into the hex, but Monica was. Did Agatha allow her in? No, remember, at least the way I interpreted it was Monica wouldn't have been able to get back in, but then her powers kicked in, right? That's when her powers kicked in, as she was trying to push her way through. So I think that's what it was. So most things couldn't come through, but Monica could because she powered up and used her power to push through and get in there. At least that's what I thought. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought. All right. Let's see here. Sam Wright writes, the scene with Darcy and Vision at the traffic lights reminded me of the Truman Show. Yeah, it kind of did. The higher power doing everything they can do to stop them from leaving. That did, right? I didn't think about that, and I heard somebody else mention that, and I'm like, oh yeah, that totally had. Actually, you know, there have been several moments in WandaVision that have had a little bit of Truman Show feel to it, like a little bit of a Truman Show DNA to it. I think this happened a couple times, but that was a really good example of that, Sam. All right, Steve O writes, Agatha controlling Pietro kind of confirmed he's simply the Fox Pietro, just being controlled, no secret identity or him being disguised. I don't think that confirmed anything. That didn't confirm anything. Like, confirming is Agatha looking at the camera and saying, let me introduce myself. I'm Agatha Harkness. That is confirming. There are a lot of people, Steve-O, that have a lot of other interpretations of this Quicksilver thing. We've already seen a lot of people write in saying he's Agatha's son. A lot of people writing saying, does that just confirm that he's Mephisto? Some people writing, does that confirm he's Nightmare? So no, it didn't confirm anything. I think there are still a lot of options on the table. I certainly don't think it means it confirmed that he was, I mean, he may end up being the Fox's Quicksilver, but that little thing that happened was not a confirmation of anything. Again, Agatha looking at the camera and saying, I'm Agatha Harkness. That's confirmation. What happened with Quicksilver was not confirmation. All right, guys. I can't go anymore. I'm feeling it. I'm pushing through as hard as I can. We're approaching 3.5 hours here. So last one for now comes to us from Harry Pickering, who writes, hey, John, big fan here in the UK. Thank you so much for writing in, Harry. We all knew it was going to be Agatha Harkness. I didn't. I didn't. I thought it was a misdirect. I thought they made it too obvious. I thought with all the evidence, it was a big misdirect, and I would have put $5 on it, man. I would have lost $5, but I didn't. Anyway, we all knew it was going to be Agatha Harkness. Really? Right? Do you think Monica's guy will still show up? I still think that's a possibility. I still think that is a possibility. Now, maybe not. Maybe it is exactly the way it looked. But I have a feeling, and a part of that is because Jimmy is still out there. Jimmy's still out there. Jimmy's still outside at that base camp where Monica and the vehicle started from, right? He's still out there. I think he is there to meet this engineer. I think he's going to meet the engineer. Now, I'm not convinced of that. I'm just be clear. I'm not convinced of that. But I do believe that is still within the realm of possibility, especially when you consider the interview that the actress gave saying that she can't wait for people to meet the engineer. Now, maybe that was a misdirect. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know, but I still think it's within the realm of possibility. Okay, guys. That'll do it for this installment, at least for now, of part 1. There's going to be a part 2 where we'll get to all the rest of the questions that got sent in, guys. That'll happen this weekend. That'll go up before Sunday. But that'll do it for us for now. My throat's completely run out of gas. I can't go anymore. Sorry about that, guys. But listen, guys, thank you again for being here and being a part of this post-show spoiler discussion. I have a lot of fun doing this, even though I'm in ridiculous pain right now. I have a lot of fun with these. We will do the pregame show again next Thursday. And then, of course, we will do the episode 8 spoiler discussion next Friday. Thank you to all of you guys for being here and making this so fun for me to do. And special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about and speculate about. And number 2, you actually support this channel as you did it. You're one of the reasons why we're able to do these shows at all. So thank you so much, guys, for all that support. All right, guys, remember, please, my request for all of you who are still here, when we're done this, jump on over to Red Cross or one of the other big support sites online, find a place and donate $1. Donate $1. More if you can. But if we just were to donate $1 to our fellow film-loving and television-loving brothers and sisters down in Texas right now, we can make a big difference. So my request to all of you is when we're done here and we sign off, jump on over there and make a donation. Let's help out those people down in Texas. They could really use it. It's fun to talk about Mephisto and who is Agatha Harkness doing, and ooh, look at the magic shiny book. It's really fun for us to talk about that stuff. I have a blast, but there's some of our brothers and sisters are having a really, really hard time in Texas right now. So let's go and see if we can help that out a little bit. Anyway, guys, that will do it for me. Thanks a lot for being here. Do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is John Campea. Until next time, my friends, I killed Sparky.